make it, do it. Makes us harder, better, faster, stronger.
It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Prospect coming out of high school than either Riley Leonard or Carson Becky got hit again. The ball's out. R.J. Oben knocked it out. And junior Tuiala Maka has it for Notre Dame. Chance to add to a 3-point lead. Play fake. Leonard in the end zone. Touchdown Irish. Bo Collins. Jaden Harrison bringing back the kickoff. He brought 2 back for touchdowns last year when he played for the Thundering Herd of Marshall, and he has one for Notre Dame.
We got a lot of work left to do. It was an ugly one, but we got it done. Once again, shout out to the defense. They played outstanding, and that's a really good team we played. So, man, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity. This is a beautiful thing and a dream come true.
The defense was a reflection of the entire team. Just keep battling. And I knew this was going to be a 60-plus minute game because that team never stops. That's why they're the Georgia Bulldogs. So we had to be aggressive. Defense did a heck of a job. All 3 phases did a great job.
I can't even be stoic. Mark Dykton, thank you. The grounds crew member next door, I see him every morning as him and I walk out of the parking garage into the building. He goes right. I kind of go left to the elevator. We've never said anything more than, hi, how are you?
I know exactly who you're talking about, yeah.
We get in the awkward holiday of, like, do I still say Happy New Year to him? Like, you know, is it one of those things? Today. Do we move on?
Yeah,
or
not Monday, but today you're fine.
And today he mutters under his breath, how about those Irish?
Wow,
and I
like that.
I wanted to hug him.
Just smile, give him a big old smile.
I thought about slapping him on the ass, maybe.
Little ass slap at 7 a.m.
Yeah, and I will say this. I have not been in studio in 48 hours. I hope you guys had a great show yesterday.
That was good, yeah.
Nice day off for myself. It seems a bit hot in here, so if you don't mind, I would
wow.
like to. It just seems a little steamy. Am I the only one?
No, go ahead. Someone
turn it up, you know, a little bit. Did Corbin turn it up
Maybe
yesterday?
Corbin turned it up. All right, the shirt's coming off.
It just seems a little steamy in here.
Jason, 11 hours ago, Mark, did tweet us the picture, and I don't know how many years ago this was, of KB taking the shirt off, but the shirt is back off. Is this the 3rd time the shirt's been off in studio?
So.
The shirt was off around the Indiana game. It's off today. It was off when Micah Shrewsbury got hired.
You know, I will say this. This time of year is not doing me any favors for the old body. I call this hibernation season.
By the way, it's great that you mentioned that. My entire timeline is like, hey, if you're a man who's overweight with a beer belly, you can do this for the next 3 weeks and get in shape. That is all my Instagram is. Besides Instagram models, that's all it is telling me how fat I am and how much beer I drink and how I can get rid of it by February 1st.
I don't think anyone will confuse this one for an Instagram model here. Should I do the hat, or is it better with the hat off?
I think you leave it on.
I think the hat on is actually better.
See, and I've already felt it in the last 27 seconds that I've had my shirt off. You guys won't make eye contact with me now until 10 a.m.
I'm not looking at you. I'm looking right at Mark Dykton.
I honestly forgot that one picture existed, and then it was on my timeline for like the last 6 hours of my day.
Was that the ET picture?
Yeah, it was Jason.
It's still around?
I think Jake took that picture because you were in studio, because Shrewsbury got hired, and I was on vacation that day, and that's all I started seeing. They said, why is Kevin's shirt off? I said, I don't know. I'm in Florida.
Which poor producer had to sit across that day? Do you remember, KB?
I don't remember.
You remember?
They haven't worked here since.
Maybe Elijah. I will
Elijah.
say, when I saw that picture, I was like, boy, there's a lot of roles there that I didn't know existed. I am very happy. So I will try to be professional as I can be over the next 3 hours. Hey,
as he says with his shirt off.
I guess everyone can be happy last night, right? Unless you're a Butler Indianapolis Colts fan.
I mean, no, it was.
You're happy, right?
It was
Pacers win in Miami.
Pacers big win.
IU Big Ten win.
Yeah.
Purdue with a road win in a place that has been a house of horrors for more, I would say, kind of non-actual basketball stuff. So we can all celebrate on this first Friday here of 2025.
Yeah, I mean, eventually we'll bring everything down and we'll dive into more Colts conversation. But yes, for last night, you feel good. Tyrese Halliburton played well. I did like on the Indiana side that Big Bench Ballo is what I'm going to call him now. I got to watch out. I got to say that slowly. Came off the bench and played well. Purdue got a win. Brain Smith flirted for a minute there with a triple-double. And then obviously your game. And I got to be honest, Notre Dame knows who they are. They play defense, good special teams team, if you will, and, they're going to run that clock, and they did, they're going to run the football. They knew who they were, and they beat the hell out of Georgia up front. I mean, they really did. I was not surprised. I mean, I picked Notre Dame to win the game last week, but I give Notre Dame credit. Coming up at 7:30, Notre Dame has done something this year that I don't like. I think you'll find it funny. We'll dive into that, but I give Notre Dame credit. They were the better team. Kirby Smart was whining and complaining and screaming and trying, and Marcus Freeman had a couple moments. The Sam Cassell. Can you see what I'm doing on the YouTube? The Sam Cassell moments with the big you-know-what. So, good for Notre Dame. It's a good Final Four. I'm fine with it. Let's go. And the SEC whines, which is always fine.
The thing that kind of stood out to me yesterday in watching it is, obviously Notre Dame and their physicality and their trench play, it's been praised a whole lot this season. And I, felt like just from a nutrition standpoint, would it catch up to them? Clearly, they were uber physical in that matchup against Georgia. I thought I was so underwhelmed by what Georgia did offensive and defensive lines. And I don't want to speak too much in hyperbole on this Friday morning, but Andy, I don't know if I saw an overwhelming amount of SEC speed on one sideline versus the other.
Oh, I would agree with that.
Listen,
I'm with you.
Too many times in this matchup, Notre Dame's gotten their ass kicked in the trenches, and then you've seen dudes running the varsity meet versus dudes running the JV meet. I didn't see that last night. And sure, you could point to a kick return or something like that, but still, when plays got to the outside, when plays got to the perimeter, I just didn't feel that. And that is a huge compliment to Marcus Freeman and their staff for how they've recruited. They've changed their strength and conditioning programs. Marcus Freeman has grown as a head coach. He was hired as a 36-year-old head coach that had deer in the headlights moment right away. Right away. He's made significant coordinator changes there, and he's taken on much more of the CEO role. And I think you've seen that. And they don't just preach aggression, they do it. I mean, if you've watched Notre Dame play this season, they treat special teams like it is a must opportunity for an advantage. Remember the first play of the second half against IU?
Oh, yeah.
They run a reverse on the kickoff. They've got the big lead. They're the ones that should be playing conservative, if anything, if you want to kind of go off old school football. No, they do that. Last night, obviously, you saw it with what they did there late in the fourth quarter to try and ice that game. Their kicker's finally healthy. Riley Leonard's mini Tim Tebow. I don't know if he can still throw it, but he sure as hell will put his body on the line.
He wears the tights really high, too. They're way up above. They're almost like shorts.
Yeah.
He's wearing them like a 1980s basketball player.
Deceptively fast, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, if you want to call him that. No, I know he signed a deal there. I did wonder watching last night, and then if Notre Dame goes on, if you told me they beat Penn State and they were right there in the national title game, I mean, right now we can all agree that Ohio State's playing better than anybody, right?
Geez.
But I mean, you say that, Notre Dame and Penn State should be a big-time game. I do wonder if Marcus Freeman didn't sign that deal with Notre Dame, if after watching a couple more games and after doing, what he did yesterday? He did Dan Campbell type stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he did Dan
Which,
Campbell
again,
type
he's
stuff.
done all year. That's been their MO.
But now people are paying attention.
Right,
It's not game 6 in the middle of October. Now people are paying attention. It does make me wonder, not for Mark's Chicago Bears, but if more NFL teams would have reached out to his agent and said, hey, before you sign that big-time deal in Notre Dame, understand that we might want to interview your candidate. I don't want to bring that up today. You're shirtless. You're looking good on this Friday. But listen, I give Notre Dame credit. We have a great Final Four, and it's almost if the Colts and Jags weren't happening, it would be a feel-good Friday. Just everybody won, and we can just move on into a weekend where apparently it's supposed to dump 6 inches of snow on us by Monday.
Yeah, what are we doing Monday? Have we talked about this? Do we need to talk to the boss?
I don't know the protocol here. I got it because we've only dealt with snow a couple times, and when I was hired, it was basically if it snows,
you got to gut it out.
You're doing a show at 7 a.m. and I said, okay, we're doing a show at 7 a.m. Well, you guys tell me.
And what the hell is going to happen Monday?
2 a.m.
Like what's happening to West 56th Street? Nothing. Kumbaya.
I better be hitting the breaking news sounder at least once.
Ryan Grigson was fired several weeks after the season ended, if I remember correctly.
Was it January 30th?
I don't know if it was that late, but it was definitely later.
Yeah, we had Kiefer on yesterday, and he mentioned, didn't he mark a date like that where Irsay's done both. He's fired early, he's fired late. I don't know, man. Just with all the Anthony Richardson stuff, you could convince me they say you guys get one more rodeo. And then that gets into, there's guys that are free agents. You're going to have a little bit of cash, obviously. Another draft. If you're giving everyone one more chance, are you letting Chris Ballard draft another class? Well, the answer is yes. Are you letting them sign free agents if they ever decide to sign free agents? And the answer would be yes. So we talked a little bit about it yesterday. I don't know if did you read the piece from The Athletic?
I did,
Zach Kiefer and James Boyd?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the veteran player quote stood out, certainly. Does Sunday matter? I think if I say that out loud, 99% of our audience would probably say, no, it shouldn't, and I would agree. But does it matter to the one guy calling the shots? If he's not going to road games, then he can only witness it firsthand in his own building. And what is his building going to look like Sunday?
Tickets are like $8. Yeah, you can get in for nothing.
It costs more for the fees than it does for the ticket.
The fee and the parking, right. Yeah,
so
you're right.
What's it look like? Atmosphere? Playing? I mean, again, does a home loss to a top 5 drafting team in your division, is that a level of embarrassment that would matter? I think that's a question you have to ask, considering it is Jim Irsay. Obviously, as we sit here on this Friday, it looks like Anthony Richardson will indeed miss his 4th game of the season due to injury. Did not practice yesterday. We will hit on that. And then Tyrese Halliburton last night, outstanding. I mean, you know what? Obviously, there's a lot about the star that has been up and down this season, but part of being a star is when you have off nights, how do you respond? And he responded in emphatic fashion. I mean, that was a video game type night, and he hasn't had many of those this season. He made it the norm quite often last season. Outstanding in Miami last night. The Pacers really roll. I thought that was one of the better kind of 48 minutes, especially the last, 30, 35 minutes of the season. They take care of business handily down there on South Beach. They will return home tomorrow night and welcome the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, Miami's in such a bad spot right now with Jimmy Butler.
Hey, Khalil Ware looked good.
Yeah, not wanting to be there. I mean, the game got down to 12 or 14. You thought, okay, are they going to do this again? We've seen them do this. They just did it the other night against Milwaukee. Are we going to see it again? And that didn't happen. And yesterday, one of the things I mentioned yesterday, KB, was after all the Colts drama is out of the way, whether that's, on Monday, if that's 3-4 weeks down the line, it's probably going to take a little bit of time here. The story was then locally probably going to become a little bit of Tyrese Halliburton. How is he playing? The NFL and the Colts at times are so dominant, but by the time college football's out of the way, and obviously you're fighting Irish, and we're into the middle of basketball, we're into the middle of Big Ten play and college basketball in the NBA, Halliburton was really going to be something that we watched his play, which has been so uneven and so inconsistent, and he was great. And for probably 3/4 of the game, at least, definitely that first half and that first quarter, it felt like watching the Pacers a lot last year.
Yeah,
where Halliburton,
minimal turnover, sharing the ball.
Exactly, where Halliburton was great. They weren't turning the basketball over. They were the better team. You knew they were the better team, and they went out there and scored points. So that was good. And then college basketball-wise, IU and Purdue both winning last night. Purdue by 20 on the road. And then, I don't know, Indiana wins by 10. When I saw, and we talked about this beforehand, when Dylan Harper wasn't going to play, You figured Indiana would win. And Ace Bailey was great last night, making shots all over the court. I think the story probably is Ballo coming off the bench, having 17 and 12. But if you're Indiana, it's a 10-point win. Could be a quad 1 win at the end of the year last night.
And we'll see about the Malik Renew injury. Bang knees early in that game. He leaves. If you look at it, Andy, it's probably Indiana's best shooting night of the year from the perimeter, at least. And that's with one big.
Right.
That's Umar Ballo kind of coming in there for Renew. And so, how much do you make of that? Do you just call it an outlier? Is this something, obviously, will the Renew injury impact things moving forward? So, yeah, Indiana pretty much was in nice control really all throughout that one. And I could not believe Purdue has had these wild stats lately with Braden Smith. Did you see the one last night?
No. What's the
Braden
one?
Smith had 20 points, 10 assists, and no turnovers.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, that's a great great stat line. Purdue claims, and this is from Jared Burson, I think does stats for, I forget if it's ESPN or CBS or one of those. He's the only player in college basketball to do that in a road win in the last decade.
Really? So to go double-double, to go 20 and 10 with no
20 points,
with
10
no
assists,
turnovers?
0 turnovers on the road. Ryan Arcidiacono, who I thought might still be at Villanova, to be honest with you. He was the last person to do that on the road. So another tweak in the starting lineup for Purdue. They really pulled away late. That final score, the first 20 or 30 minutes, it was a little bit closer there. But if you tell a Purdue fan they're playing at Minnesota, they will say, I'm not watching that game. No chance in the world I'm watching that game. Too many things have occurred in that barn that I don't want to witness. Purdue handles it, though, quite well.
I did love, I don't know how much you watch of it, but I did love, is it Ben Johnson who is their head coach?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. He was doing the thing, trying to pump up the team. They go live. Was it the Big Ten Network? What was the game on? I can't even remember. They go into the huddle, and he's screaming at the guys, stay together. You're okay. Stay connected. And then that's when Purdue went on their run and basically ended the game. Took it from 8 or 10 or whatever it was and made it 20. Purdue had 3 turnovers last night.
And that's been the issue, away from home.
That's just a staggering.
Yeah,
that's just a staggering number for any level, for high school, college, at that level, or the NBA. Are you doing the entire show shirtless?
I'll be honest.
You can do whatever you want. I'm just asking.
I can see the picture of the camera just to the left of Mark for those that are unfamiliar with how our studio looks. Boy, it's not like we have got HD cameras in here. The camera doesn't paint me in as bad of a light as I thought it would.
We've upgraded the cameras. The old ones didn't make it as good.
I do look like a chia pet kind of up top.
Yeah, well.
Some people have said we grow hair, Indy, on other parts of the body. I don't think they want me to endorse that necessarily, but I don't know. Maybe if we lowered the camera a little bit, I don't think anybody wants to. I will say,
are you gonna go out in the hallway when you gotta,
I know,
take a leak?
That guy you wanted
refill
to
your
smack
water
on the butt is gonna feel a little different.
Of course, it's mostly just dudes around here. It's just the IBC dudes.
I'm a little worried about the cleaning lady.
She is usually around here about 7:30, 8 o'clock.
When she saw me the Friday of the Notre Dame Indiana game and all the layers,
okay,
she was quite thrown off. And then today, if she sees me like this, does she call HR immediately?
That's a good point. Who employs her? Is it the building? I don't know. We'll have to dive into that. Mark will dive into that.
I feel a little hardening in some certain
what?
Parts of the body here that,
You feel it, we see it. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. God almighty.
So
I'm just trying to paint the accurate picture.
Yeah, not everyone's watching. Not everyone's watching on the YouTube
I'm not on
stream.
that side of the table. I can't see everything.
Not
Thank
there.
God.
Hey, does it warrant shirt off? You still got 2 more to go, but I just feel like you got to.
You said you felt if they got past Georgia, you were going to feel something special.
Yeah, they gave you the Notre Dame hasn't won a big bowl game in 31 years.
Yeah, I know.
And they gave that about every 5 minutes on the.
I was like, Sean McDonough, you really got to go there again. I get it. I get it. I'll have my shirt off tomorrow, Sean. It's fine.
Oh, goodness. All right, let's take a break. Coming up on the other side, what did Rick Carlisle, Tyrese Halliburton say about the big game from those guys last night as the Pacers win? Plus, all the news, all the scores from overnight. Appreciate you waking up with us. It's a Football Friday right here, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
All right, good Friday morning to you. Football Friday, our final one of the year. Greg Rakestraw coming up at 8. Voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor at 9. And I'm giddy.
To say the least. Shirt still off, by the way, in studio if you're just joining us.
Shirt is off.
Not
Chest
mine,
hair is
KB's.
out. Jimmy Cook will sit in this chair in about 4.5 hours.
I think Jimmy Cook should do the same thing. He should go shirtless. Come on.
I think Jimmy Cook could be good with this right now. If I had to have any of our other hosts follow me in this chair, I mean, Jake, germaphobe beyond belief.
Oh, is he? Yeah, that's not good for sports radio.
John as well, but John probably isn't in studio today, right?
No, I'm sure. No, he's out on remote. I've heard the stinger 9 million times where he's at, so I apologize. But no, he's out.
This is great.
He's out. Well, good
I'm
for
good.
you. All right,
I've got some Lysol wipes. I can wipe it down
yeah,
after
you're
the show.
fine. Yeah, sure. Jimmy's fine with it. He's got no problem. We'll get to Notre Dame here in a second. Let's start last night in South Beach. Pacers go on the road. They get a road win. They've been pretty good on the road, actually, as of late. 128-115, your final. The story of the game, though, is Tyrese Halliburton, after some uneven performances, 33 points, 15 assists, 5 rebounds, 0 turnovers in the game last night. Here's head coach Rick Carlisle.
He was great. And for him, developing the feel of when to be the aggressive scorer when he gets on a run like this and when to facilitate and get other guys involved that may get going or he may help them get going, that's going to continue to be the balance, for a guy like him.
Pacers win. They're next up hosting the Phoenix Suns. That's going to be tomorrow night, 6:30, right here on The Fan.
Shout out to Cleo Ware. I thought some really nice minutes for the Heat last night. Probably his best game as a pro. The thing about that Thomas Bryant trade, it's opened the door for him down there in Miami to get some more minutes. So as Andy said, it'll be the Suns coming up at home at the Nets. Looking ahead, they do have the Warriors a week from tonight. I know that's always a big game inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. All right, shifting gears to last night in the Superdome. It was Notre Dame 23-10 over the Georgia Bulldogs. Certainly some big plays, some turnovers made the difference. Notre Dame with a huge fumble forced by Adon Schuler early on in the first half to stop a Georgia drive. A massive strip of Gunnar Stockton there late in the first half to set up their lone offensive touchdown. And then dagger's too big of a term to use, but certainly the Jaden Harrison kick return for a touchdown to start the third quarter. I think the stat that, for me, summarizes so much, Andy, is this. Notre Dame had 9 tackles for loss in the game. Georgia had 1.
Yeah, that's surprising.
You want to kind of summarize controlling the line of scrimmage. I actually thought Gunnar Stockton wasn't as deer in headlights as I thought he could have been. I mean, hell, Georgia dropped, a 60-yard touchdown, 70-yard touchdown thrown perfectly for him. But I thought Notre Dame controlled the line of scrimmage. Not perfectly, but they controlled it on both sides last night, and to me, that was the difference.
Well, I mean, then you run when Georgia jumps off sides, Notre Dame's able to run, 5 minutes and 17 seconds?
Turned into like a 7-minute drive.
That ended the game. I mean, it did end the game. The game was not going to fizzle out. You could see Georgia scoring, and suddenly you're really nervous, and it's a game. But the game just fizzled out, and basically, they just ended the game. They just kept running until there was no time left. 2 things on this game. I forget the kid's name. Georgia had the big play early on down inside the 10-yard line where they got the 15-yard penalty because the poor kid that looks like you and I, wearing number 39.
Are we still ripping that kid? I couldn't believe how many times ESPN went back to him.
Yeah, Twitter's ripping him.
And people acted like Georgia was on the 1-yard line. They're going to punch it in. Georgia wasn't scoring there.
Okay, well, settle down. Well, that was one. They definitely weren't scoring a touchdown then. And then, number 2, you have, and I'm not saying you were wrong. I'm saying the data has changed on you. Notre Dame can kick some field goals.
Yeah, Mitch Jeter is healthy. Yeah. Notre Dame's field goal kicker.
They suddenly can kick field goals out of nowhere.
The month off certainly helped him out because the stats and the whole operation was pretty ugly. I was a little surprised Georgia didn't challenge him more. Like, Georgia played field goal safe a whole lot. I mean, IU blocked a kick against Notre Dame there. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I thought Marcus Freeman and that entire staff just thoroughly outcoached Kirby Smart and company. So, Notre Dame, Penn State, Thursday night. I thought there might be a change in the Orange Bowl schedule, considering a little bit of the delay, obviously, for the Superdome. But so far, it sounds like it'll be the Orange Bowl. Thursday, it's Notre Dame, Penn State. Friday, Ohio State, Texas in the Cotton Bowl. And then those winners will meet in Atlanta coming up 2 weeks from Monday.
Please beat James Franklin. Please.
You're rooting for James Franklin? Or you're rooting against James Franklin?
He said, please beat James Franklin.
James
correct?
Franklin.
Not
okay.
please beat James Franklin.
Yeah,
right?
no,
don't beat him.
I was like, we're not rooting for James
Yeah,
Franklin.
he was on our most hated Mount Rushmore, right?
I think so. College basketball
People
last night.
can't really cheer for Penn State,
No,
right?
well,
that's just
Well,
dirty.
well, on the other side is Notre Dame. I don't know.
I think I want to get into that.
Let's not
7:30.
compare Notre Dame to Penn State here.
I know.
Marcus Freeman is more likable than James Franklin.
That's true.
By a bunch. I'm not saying just Penn State and Notre Dame, the school.
He called our Big Ten championship setup JV here.
Yeah,
we should all hate it.
Exactly. To hell with him. So, quickly, college basketball last night. Indiana winners 84-74. Let's hear from Mike Woodson. Umar Ballo came off the bench last night. Why did he come off the bench? Was it a punishment? Here's Mike Woodson.
Let's just talk about it 17 and 12. That's what I like to focus in on. He came off the bench and he got 17 and 12 for us and 2 blocks, which is fantastic.
Beautiful Mike Woodson, isn't it? He's great. He's
Mike
just not going to
Woodson
give you
answers,
anything.
The Shane Steichen answers. These are glorious.
Purdue winners 81-61. Braden Smith again, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists, 0 turnovers in that
52
one.
of 53 Colts have practiced. Anthony Richardson, the lone one not to practice this week. Much more on that. Should Sunday matter? Who could it be the last game for? We'll hit on all of that here coming up.
Yeah, Greg Rakestraw coming up top of the hour. Matt Taylor at 9 o'clock. Like KB said, what matters on Sunday for the Colts? I know you obviously the Anthony Richardson stuff. You haven't got to talk about it yesterday. We'll dive into that. Plus something I did not like about last night's Notre Dame Georgia game. We'll dive into all of that coming up next. Appreciate you waking up with us. It's a Football Friday on the Fan.
Weirdly, I actually think there is a thing or two to care about Sunday inside of Lucas Oil Stadium. We'll hit on that. Actually, I'm heavily biased here, but it's kind of an interesting announcing crew. Did you see who's on the call?
I did not know who's on the call. Let's go.
Obviously, we're at the point of the NFL season where bye weeks are long gone, so you get, different announcing crews to fill the entire NFL slate. You've got Jason Benetti and Brady Quinn.
Okay. Well, you're gonna like that one, Brady Quinn. Okay.
And I'm a big Benetti fan as well.
Yeah. Oh no, he's very good.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
yeah,
I think I think that'll be a fun. Now I'm just lying to myself. I go, that'll be a fun rewatch. I'm like, boy, am I really gonna rewatch that for 3 hours on Sunday? But nonetheless, I like Jason Benetti. I like Brady Quinn. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Week 18, boys, just lacks a little bit of luster.
Well, I mean, yeah, it does.
Obviously, Lions-Vikings, the final game of the year. It's for the 1 seed.
Chiefs-Broncos. I mean, that's a big game.
Yeah, but
does Denver get in? I mean, it's a playoff spot's up for grabs.
Yeah, I guess that's the
Carson
other one.
Wentz,
but that's really it, right? I mean, tomorrow, they're trying to get me into the game, right? So the only way Pittsburgh matters tomorrow is the 2 AFC North games, right?
It's Browns, Ravens, Bengals, Steelers. That's the doubleheader.
And if Ravens win at 4:30, the night game doesn't matter.
Basically, yes.
Because the Ravens would have clinched the AFC North.
The Bengals are still trying to get into the postseason.
Yeah, but they need a lot of help.
They need a lot of help, but I think that's the one that people are looking at.
Because Bengals need Miami to lose too, right?
Yeah, and you look at the Steelers. I mean, they've lost, 3 games in a row, if I'm not mistaken? So if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Tomlin's so crazy, he'll play everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where they probably want to go into the postseason not losing 4 straight games. And, of course, if the Steelers can help ruin the Bengals, even though the Bengals need a lot to go on, I'm sure they'd be fine with that. But yeah, for the most part, there's not a lot going on. Me and Mark talked about this yesterday. I was really disappointed that Nick Sirianni decided to sit Saquon Barkley. We could have got, one of the bigger records in the NFL, the all-time leading rusher in a season. That could have obviously fallen. So I don't know. Is it a huge weekend where it's like we're waiting on 3 or 4 teams? No. But it is what it is. There's still 3 or 4 games that a lot of things could happen. And I'll say this for the Vikings and Lions, it's a difference of being at home the entire time, getting a bye week and being the 1 seed or being the 5 seed. I mean, that's a lot at stake. Not that you can't win and go on the road or host a game and play every week in the playoffs, but, if you need a little bit of a rest, which, of course, the Lions do, you get a week off. That's pretty good.
All right, Anthony Richardson did not practice yesterday. Obviously, in all likelihood, it looks like he will miss Sunday against the Jags. That would be 4 games missed, Andy, this season due to injury. And certainly, I know you guys hit on it yesterday. And obviously, when we don't have a show on Wednesday, the news cycle, gets pushed back a little bit. But you had Anthony's comments about, the severity of the back issue last week. And Shane Steichen's, of course, lack of clarity, lack of messaging, lack of acknowledging it, however you want to describe it. I do think it's losing a little bit of the plot. And I think I said that back 2 months ago, too, of Shane Steichen's poor communication is an issue. I'm not going to sweep that under the rug. It's a problem. It's especially a problem if it's happening behind the scenes as well, which obviously we don't know. But clearly, when he gets in front of a mic, it is very cringy. And it's not just the Richardson-related questions, to be honest with you. I mean, we played the audio earlier in the week about his answer on guys showing up late.
Sure, right.
I
it's a terrible answer.
On Monday, hey, what do you like about Gus Bradley's defensive system? And I didn't hear one answer that, again, I'm asking him to compliment his defensive system. What does he like about it? And you listen to it and you don't hear anything. So, again, it is cringy. It, whatever, needs work. It's an issue, et cetera, et cetera. But the plot is still this, Andy. If you look at it, and the Colts have had some walkthroughs here over the past couple of years, so it doesn't equate to exactly, 90-some practices or 100-some practices. But Anthony Richardson, through 2 years, will have missed half of his practices. Half of his practices in the NFL. We're talking regular season practices. If you look at the games played, it will be 15 played, 19 missed, 17 of those due to injury. So, yes, the messaging and the storyline of, are you throwing your quarterback under the bus and all that, that has garnered a lot of headlines in the last 7 to 10 days. The plot, though, is still there of can you run an effective offense and keep him healthy? I mean, yes, he only missed 4 games due to injury, but still, 4 games due to injury, and, 2 in the critical month of December/January, you can't ignore that. And now does this back issue linger at all? Does it flare up at all? Are we getting to the point now where wear and tear is there on his body? And, over the course of playing 12, 14, 15 games, some of this stuff starts to happen. I want to make sure that we don't ignore that aspect of it. He's only missed 4 games due to injury this season, but still, you can't totally act like that topic is now off the board.
No, you can't. I think the only reason there's not weeping and gnashing of teeth about it is I think the Colts fan is just so fatigued over everything, right? Do they have the energy to muster up the Anthony Richardson is injured again? Because yesterday, I think you're spot on. Yesterday, I talked about it, and this is before he obviously missed yesterday's practice. We had Stephen Holder on yesterday, and he actually thought, Mark, help me here, he thought there was a chance that Richardson would practice yesterday. He says, I don't know if he will, but there is a chance that you see him out there on Thursday.
He said it's possible.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so if he practiced Thursday, he's going to practice Friday, are you going to keep him out? Are you going to keep him out? And my takeaway was, KB, that you do not play Anthony Richardson on Sunday. Whether he can play or not, there's just no reason with that back injury. And I didn't think he probably would be healthy enough to play anyway. I mean, let's just be honest about it. I mean, the reality is, and you asked the question about can you win playing the way that you want to play with Anthony Richardson? And I think it is unfortunate, but the one answer that we have, I think there's 2 answers that we have on AR. Pretty good. Sorry, I think there's 2. I think number 1, 3 if you want to add in that he can run the football at an elite level in the NFL. 1 is he can make some dazzling plays. It's not going to be every week, but yes, he is going to make the play, 4, 5, 6 times, whatever it is a year where you're sitting back saying, wow, there's not many guys in the NFL that have been able to make that play. The second thing that we have figured out is that he's not going to stay healthy. He's just not. And he's not going to be a guy that's going to play near 17 games in a regular season. We're going to have to do this dance with getting a backup quarterback in here that can win you games, that can be more than competent, but can't be too competent. Can't be someone that's going to, it's going to really test whether Anthony Richardson, when he comes back healthy, if he's going to be in the starting lineup. So it's a difficult dance, but there is, unfortunately, no part of me that thinks this guy, we have 6 games this year. I know 2 of them are benching, so you look at it, it's about 4 games. There's this, if you told me every year he's going to miss at least a month of the season, I don't think that's surprising at all. In fact, quite frankly, I expect it. And now we're talking about a back, and I don't know how much it should scare me, but it scares me, a guy that has been as injured as he has been, and then a guy that is important as he is injured and has played as little football as he has. It scares me. I expect Anthony Richardson, if he's a starting quarterback in the NFL, to miss a month every season. I just do.
I got Caleb in the YouTube chat chirping about me going shirtless for a quarterfinal game.
Is he an IU fan?
I think he was chirping that Notre Dame would get rolled by Georgia. So now he's, moved the goalpost a little.
He's got to pivot to your body, to your upper body, being bare on a Friday.
Now, you two come from fan bases that you have not had an opportunity to celebrate much.
That's true.
Probably fair.
It's been a decade.
No, nothing against
years.
you guys.
I was 30 years old.
I mean, trust me, I haven't had a ton to celebrate. I do think Notre Dame football has been at a much better level than it was here over the last, 8 to 10 years. Judgment for going shirtless for a quarterfinal game. Deserve it or no?
Totally fine with it.
Because if I'm going to be honest, my nipples are a bit hard right now.
Now, the real question is, let's dream big here. If they win the Natty,
what do you do?
You run a nude around the circle?
Yeah, what's next? You have set a standard now where the shirt simply coming off is not enough.
So I have informed you guys, and I think I told you this, because I don't believe in jinxes. I don't believe in curses.
Okay. Really?
I don't think the car had gotten to Plymouth on the trip home, down 31, a couple of Fridays ago, before I had bought the flights to the national title.
Oh, that's right. I forgot
Remember
about
that.
Yes.
I told you guys that, and I think you guys were okay with that.
No, I'm fine with it. You
guys weren't crazy superstitious against me.
You can cancel that stuff off. The time to buy it is then, not in a week and a half when everyone's trying to get out there.
So just to kind of look ahead, and this is just all for planning purposes. Notre Dame, if they were to make the national title, be the Monday, Martin Luther King Day Monday, which we do a show that day, and then Tuesday, of course, would be the morning after the national title game. My thought is, potentially do the show that Monday remote from my Airbnb, free cancellation on the Airbnb that I've already booked in the Atlanta area. And then, probably Tuesday, it'd probably be good if I, maybe just kind of took that day off as my flight home, I want to say, is about 9 a.m. on that Tuesday morning. But I think if Notre Dame wins it all, some sort of thin Speedo, Notre Dame-related action, and a jog around the circle is probably needed.
Okay, listen, if you can do all of this, you're a brave man going in the Speedo, especially in the middle of winter. So God bless you.
If you're willing to, certainly something I am used to, so I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot.
To pad the Speedo, there's nothing wrong with that.
You gotta be
I'm not going to pad the Speedo,
like stuffing
but,
paper towels in there.
You gotta be like Cole Hawker, like have a Notre Dame flag that you're carrying with you as you run.
I didn't even think about that.
That's a great point. He rang a bell. We don't have a bell for you to ring, unfortunately.
One of you can be out there on the circle for me then?
I'm sure we'll have to record it at some point.
I can't remember. How many did you bought 2 tickets? I can't remember what you bought. What exactly did you buy?
I bought my flight there and home. I have bought the Airbnb, or I've rented the Airbnb, and then
your brother was going to go, right?
Right. Okay. I am awaiting word on tickets.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can get them. You don't have to go through Notre Dame, but I understand what you're saying. You're going to wait on tickets. You're not going to You're not going to play that where you get them and then have to worry about selling them if Notre Dame loses.
I'm
to
pretty
James
sure the Notre
Franklin.
Dame ticket lottery is coming up soon here. I think everybody does the the whole whatever season ticket members request.
Oh, you don't have to do that. Yeah, you don't have to go through Notre Dame for that. Does the missus know that you're shirtless the entire show today?
I don't think she does.
When does that get back to her roughly?
I don't know.
Is she,
I'm really hoping not.
Getting the kids awake right now? Like she finds out about 8:15 or so.
She knows you've done this before.
Yeah, she knows it's definitely.
You've went to the well. You've went
so
to the well a couple
you guys are okay
times.
with the quarterfinal shirtless?
Yeah.
I mean, if you would tell me at the start of the year, okay, Notre Dame's going to play 2 SEC opponents this season, okay? One will be at, I would say, one of the more hostile environments in college football, Texas A&M.
Yep.
And the other one will be Georgia in the Superdome. And you would tell me Notre Dame wins those games by 10 and 13 points.
I would not, especially Georgia. Texas A&M, new coach. I don't have a ton of respect for A&M other than they have an awesome stadium and a crazy fan base. But that was a top 25 win. But, yes, I would have said before the season, there's no way in hell that I'm predicting Notre Dame to win double digits in a big game like that against Georgia and Kirby Smart. Not a chance. You know what it's done to me? This is what I teased. And I don't – you may have – done this a little bit over the last year and a half. I have never been a big hater of Notre Dame, but I've never been Notre Dame's very divisive. You would agree with that.
Oh, 1,000%.
Now, I don't think they're as divisive as they used to be, simply because I think the SEC as a conference has overtaken the divisiveness in the sport, where it's almost like at times other conferences and teams will band together to ratio and make fun of the SEC. But you, and I think maybe Marcus Freeman, and not having the football devil himself, Brian Kelly, at the helm anymore, it's made Notre Dame somewhat likable. And I've never really lived in that world, but I was feeling that yesterday, that I think, go back to round number 1. Kirk Cignetti, who has been the professional wrestler, Mark, you know this, he kind of went NWO in that game before Notre Dame, where he went on College Game Day. People are like, this big mouth needs to settle down. And then Notre Dame won that game, and they shut Kirk Cignetti up, and then they won this game, and I'm sitting back. I think people like Freeman. Of course, Brian Kelly was so unlikable, and I'm like, Notre Dame is almost, in my mind, like they're a likable team now. And that is not something, Kevin Bowen, that I would imagine has happened in your lifetime. I think Notre Dame is likable, and people don't like Penn State. They don't like, well, maybe not Penn State. They don't like James Franklin, and we don't like James Franklin. So this next round, you look at it, Notre Dame, again, is the more likable team in the semifinal matchup. I don't know how we got to this point, but we did.
Boy, I think the
Am I wrong?
This is where the big boys play, huh?
That was Kirk Cignetti.
I think this is I think there is a lot of truth to that. I think the most accurate statement you just made is purely on the SEC front. Like the SEC hatred.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, literally, my timeline last night was filled at the end of the game with people putting up the IU box score next to the Georgia box score.
That's great.
Against Notre Dame.
That's great.
And, like, as someone that used to do loser fan, like, I used to do the loser fan stuff.
Sure you
I used
did.
to say, wait a minute, we didn't lose to Alabama by that much. Wait a minute, we didn't lose to Clemson by that much. Trust me there. Remember the backdoor touch? Like, the loser fan mentality is one of the saddest positions to be in.
Oh, it is.
The fact that I can take my shirt off today to actually celebrate a win, I will do that very, very proudly.
Now,
My nipples are out. My chest hair is out. There's a roll or two that I didn't know existed, but hey, welcome to 2025 and, 35 years old and metabolism. And as someone that said to me last time I took my shirt off,
metabolism.
Looks like you love beer and cheese. I do.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I know.
We just went through Christmas.
Come on now.
Mark, your mic's off. Sorry, Mark.
Not looking like Chris Hemsworth over here. It's the holidays.
Chris Hemsworth.
Just eating pudding and beer.
Thank you, Mark.
I love how Mark thought of like an attractive, good-looking, fit guy. He went to Chris Hemsworth.
I know where my wife's eyes go to when we watch Marvel movies.
Oh, boy.
I probably look a little bit more Mike Elko than I do Marcus Freeman.
Boy, Mike Elko's got that 4X, doesn't he? Like his pullover doesn't need to be as big as it is. When I look at Mike Elko, anyway, what were you gonna say?
Well, I would just add this. I know you guys talked about it, I'm sure, yesterday. The Arizona State-Texas game and getting Joe Tessitore on that call.
Oh, he's great,
wasn't he? I love him so much.
He was great, wasn't he?
He is college football. Like, as soon as I saw him, I was like, this game's not going to die early.
Oh, he was the hero of the game. He was the player of the game besides, the targeting when it wasn't called.
Dad.
Scatterbro, yeah, and all of that. I love Scatterbro. They ask him after the game, who do you want to play for? And he's like, well, I wouldn't mind playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, you don't think? Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad thing to win 8 Super Bowls in a row.
He looks like a Raider to me.
I actually have a guy I know lives back in Louisville that looks just like him. During the break, I'll bring him a picture. If you put them side by side, you would think they're the same guy. The problem we have, Mark, in the championship game, if Notre Dame goes on, I don't know. Ryan Day is almost a sympathetic figure.
Oh, no, he's not.
And I don't think people hate Sark. No, Ryan Day's become sympathetic because his own fan base wants to kill him.
I don't know.
They want to kill him.
I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet.
You don't think so? I think he's a tad sympathetic.
I mean, if we get Notre Dame, Ohio State, we got to have Lou Holtz as the honorary coin tosser, right?
Yes. Did you see there's a video of Lou Holtz reacting to the Brett Bielema, Shane Beamer beef? Where
No.
He's like, it's just him saying, I can't believe what's happening.
Do I need
in
to
his
see
Lou Holtz voice, and then he, takes a breath and goes into whatever political rant that he was going to go into.
One very obscure Colts note for Sunday. We'll see if Juju Brents plays. This is his 3rd week of practice. He's been full so far this week. I know it's a storyline that probably a large portion of people don't really care about, but he's a former 2nd-round pick. He's an Indy native. He's missed a whole lot of game action in his NFL career. I do think if you're grasping for any storyline to cling to on Sunday, does he play? And frankly, I think if he plays, I'd start him over Samuel Womack. I know that necessarily.
I would too.
There might not be a whole lot of, hey, he's earned it, but hey, a meaningless game. I would rather see the 2nd-round pick and see if he can build any sort of confidence heading into the offseason. We'll get to at some point today, Andy, free agents. I don't stand on a table for any of them. But you could be looking at the last game for a Mo Alley Cox, a Kylan Granson, a Ryan Kelly, a Dayo Adengbo, an EJ Speed, a Julian Blackman. A lot of those people, I don't think there is an obvious necessarily passing of the torch to, but at the same time, I don't think I stand on a table for any of them.
No, I think it would just be like the offensive line guys, like a guy like Ryan Kelly, because he's a good guy. That you look at him and
he's the one that I think there is a clear passing of the torch to.
Right. I think that's probably the case. And, he's been emotional in the locker room. I'm sure he will. I know at 8:30 we're going to give our predictions. I don't know where you guys are going to go. I've struggled with this game just because I totally could see the Colts laying down. I did look at Jacksonville practice yesterday. I mean, I guess just about everyone practiced, right? I mean, they're main guys when you think of Hines Allen and Travion Walker coming off.
I mean, they've got guys on IR, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk.
Sure. I mean, they've had those guys that have been injured, but, the guys they played with the last couple weeks, I don't think they've had a rash of, hey, we're going to put a guy on the shelf, if you will, for the final one. So we'll see about that. Do you think we see Sam Ehlinger, and then could this be the end of the road for Joe Flacco? Scotty, when he's in here later for a pop quiz, is this going to be the pop quiz game that Joe Flacco's last start was who did he beat or who did he lose to? We could get that on Sunday with Flacco.
Are you going R-word? Like retirement for him?
Yeah, probably, right? I mean, do you think someone else? You think there's a team that will pick him up?
Yeah,
I guess there probably is.
I haven't gotten the vibe from Flacco like this is it. You know,
someone has to want you. I guess that would be the next thing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I think he still can be a very serviceable backup. Like, I don't watch Flacco and think he's Matt Ryan in 2022.
Oh, he's not that. No. I mean, he's played better at times than Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, Matt Ryan 2022 looked like me with my shirt off.
Yeah. Like, he probably looked the same,
I mean,
actually,
Joe
with his shirt
Flacco
off.
this year looks like...
he's fine.
Kurt Darling with his shirt off. I don't know. Somebody just a little bit... Not that I've seen Kurt Darling with his shirt off.
Does Kurt Darling want you to say that?
I don't know. I was trying to picture you two with your shirts off, and I don't know. I decided not to go there.
Thank you.
I don't know if I feel comfortable about you thinking about that.
No, you can think about it. Nothing good happens in my sports life, so I never have to worry about taking my shirt off in any sort of public setting.
I do think the question, though, like, to me, the answer is emphatically no. Should Sunday matter for the futures of the powers that be within the Colts organization? It's an emphatic no for me. I said it on Monday. I'll repeat it to end the week. I'll repeat it next week. Chris Ballard and Gus Bradley should be gone. But in Jim Irsay's eyes, does the whole scene of 3 hours inside of that building on Sunday matter? And by that, I mean this. How many people are there? What's it sound like? What's it look like? And the fact that you're playing a top 5 drafting divisional team in your own building, if you lose, it's a double-digit loss season. If you lose, it's another year of under 500 in the AFC South. Like, again, all of these things, to Irsay, doesn't matter.
I mean, they could be booed off the field on Sunday.
Oh, I mean, they'd be booed at the first 3 and out.
They could be booed off the field multiple times.
If they start like Georgia started yesterday, they're getting booed.
It's a good question. For me, if they go on, they win the game, and, you score a couple touchdowns, and everyone's having their celebrations in the end zone, to me, it doesn't move the needle at all to where we say, well, if they wouldn't have played that way against the Giants, it doesn't. But I think it's kind of like these bowl games. If you win a bowl game, you can say it doesn't mean anything. But if you're in the Weed Whacker Bowl and you win, you can suddenly say, we won 9 games in a college football season, and that sounds better than going 8-5 or whatever. I feel like the positive won't mean as much, but if they go out there and they lay down and they get beat and they do the things that you're saying and they get booed off the field, I think the negative could outweigh any positive that potentially could happen on Sunday. I could see that being the case. But for Jim Irsay, if he has a decision, if he's leaning one way or the other, Sunday should not matter towards his decision at all. It's not like, we go out there and we win 30-10 over Jacksonville in Week 18 in a meaningless game and we still finish under 500, that means now you need to keep, if you were going to fire Chris Ballard, that you keep Chris Ballard. I don't see it that way. Does Jim Irsay? Nobody has any idea. Who would know?
Probably a safe bet.
Who would?
Pat McAfee won't be banging the anvil on Sunday.
Boy, Jesus.
Is that an accurate statement?
I mean, he dropped 9 F-bombs on ESPN yesterday. He's the only guy that's allowed to drop 9 F-bombs on ESPN in the history of ESPN.
And he has to keep coming back to work.
I will say this, not a lot of game day people picked Notre Dame, but Coach Corso did.
Did he really?
They might need to keep on set for another year.
You're damn right. You're damn right. Well, good for him. So I picked Notre Dame, so that's all that matters.
You did. You gave me a little bit of a jolt of confidence.
That Georgia... How Georgia played yesterday is how Georgia's played more this season than they played the last few years. They're a good team. They're just not. They're just definitely not a great team. All right, let's take a break. Coming up on the other side, it's a Football Friday. Greg Rakestraw. He joins us next here on The Fan.
Well, it's our final Football Friday of the year. Fortunately, our next guest, Greg Rakestraw, will continue to join us here coming up throughout the high school basketball season. We'll sprinkle in a lot of college basketball with him as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Greg Rakestraw celebrated a birthday earlier this week.
Oh, did he really? Great.
Happy belated birthday to you,
great.
brother.
Thank you, fellas. I appreciate that.
Are you a fan of the post-Christmas in between New Year birthday? Were you a fan of that growing up?
Well, a lot of folks would cheap out and get me the combo present, but now I'm in an age where it doesn't bother me. And what it did lead to is that basically, I always knew I'd be off school for my birthday. So it'd be like this, 48-hour, bender that I could go on. So, and again, I've kind of also gotten past that point of life as well. So happy to have a day where folks, seem to care for me, and then, we move on the other 364 days of the year.
Rake, your brain knows this quite well, so I have no doubt that you will remember it. Tomorrow, the 10-year anniversary of what?
Tomorrow will be the 10-year anniversary of the dramatic comeback against the Kansas City Chiefs, correct?
I think that's 11. Tomorrow is the 10-year anniversary of the last home playoff game. That would have been the next year.
Against the Bengals, that's right.
Bengals. You have any memory of Colts beating Bengals in January 2015?
The fact that the Colts won the game comes to mind. If I'm correct, weren't they like blanking the Bengals for a good chunk of that game? Does that sound right to you?
Yeah.
It was a rather dominant performance?
That does. I was looking at the box score earlier this week. Boom Herron had 10 catches, and Jarrell Freeman led them in tackles.
Seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I asked that to say this. In Jim Irsay's eyes, do you think Sunday matters at all in regards to what he will do with his franchise moving forward?
It shouldn't. I don't think it will. Again, I think the line of demarcation, whether this is a good season or not, is were you a playoff team? And obviously the Colts will fail on that front.
Greg Rakestraw with us, Payless Liquors Hotline. By the way, Greg, I'm going to ask you a Colts question here in a second. Have you dialed up our YouTube at all? Are you aware that Kevin Bowen is shirtless right now in the studio and has been for the last 63 minutes?
Kevin, is this an accurate statement?
It is, Rake. Please don't judge me. I know you and I will be together in the car a week from Monday driving up for Notre Dame Boston College. Cannot wait for that. But, yes, Rake, I am shirtless.
Did you lose a bet? Is this because you're growing hair in other places? What's the story?
No, Notre Dame won last night.
There is a chia pet in the upper chest area. Certainly there has been for quite a while. Did not need We Grow Hair Indy for that. But, yeah, are you judging me, Rake, for going quarterfinals shirtless? Or do you feel like it's necessary considering Notre Dame and what they've looked like in big games in my lifetime?
I'm not sure it's necessary, period. I'm sure you're a handsome fella, but I'm not sure I need to see that yet.
Right.
He's anti-shirt being off
God.
right now. That's what it sounds
part of me
like.
It's going to go back to the chair and grab the sweatshirt after hearing that.
Rake, he went out and got would you get water or coffee during the last break, and he put his coat on over his bare body. He didn't put the shirt and the sweatshirts back on.
Just the coat on.
He was worried the cleaning lady would be through early in the morning, so he put his coat on. That's
I can't
what he
be dealing
did.
with HR, Rake, on this Friday.
Not in the new year.
I may have played a role in helping a previous host in the station make people think he was doing a show naked. And I can verify that he actually wasn't. But see, in this case, we weren't doing a video stream yet from the studio, and we would just simply put signs on the door, only enter if you're a fan staff member. So we could kind of, through the magic of radio, now you've got video evidence of why you're doing this for some reason.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's fantastic. I didn't know that. Greg Rakestraw with us. One more from me on the Colts. What do you think? I mean, AR's going to miss on Sunday, nor should he play with the back injury of last week. So he's going to miss 6 games, 4 games due to injury. We know what happened last year. In the 2 years, it's going to be 19 missed games. What do you think was accomplished this season in us trying to find out more about Anthony Richardson, if anything?
Not as much as we would have liked to. I felt there was a stretch where he played well. It clearly wasn't out of the gate. It clearly wasn't when he didn't come back, the first time from injury. It was after he came back from a 2-game benching. And it felt like, I wouldn't say you would put the injury concerns behind you, but you were thinking less about them. And now he likely is going to miss the final 2 games of the season. you have to consider that when you think of Anthony long-term is the number of games that he's missed the last 2 years. Now, again, let me say this before you kind of take the next logical leap. For a myriad of reasons, I think he's your quarterback next year. Part of it because I think you saw enough in the time that you had, but we're not talking long-term planning here. I'm talking about next year. He still is on his rookie deal for 3 more years. But now let's get to where you're drafted, what the market looks like, et cetera, things of that nature. I think he's your quarterback next year, but I think next year is the make it or break it year as far as Anthony Richardson is concerned.
He is great, Greg Rakestraw. He's with us here on the ISC Sports Network. Greg, I believe this time last week, as we called you, you were en route to Newcastle for the Girls Hall of Fame Classic. You had a hell of a finish, did you not, with Brian Satterfield, HSC and LC?
No, he did an inbound play from about 40 feet away with 1.6 seconds left to go, where everybody dives towards the star player, Maya McAlusky. Ball ends up going to Addison Van Hoosen, who is one of their kind of 2 starting role players on the team. She catches, puts it off the window, scores, and LC loses for the first time to a team from the state of Indiana in 2 years with a 52-50 Hamilton Southeastern win.
It seemed like, based off of that, and then Saturday had some highly competitive games. Pretty good Hall of Fame Classic, both on the girls and boys front.
Fantastic. You basically had 1 versus 2 play each other in both championships, and I don't think the fields will ever be better than the ones they had on the girls' side. All 4 of the teams, even one of those being a non-4A team in South Knox, were in the top 7 in terms of the Sagarin ratings. On the boys' side, basically you had a combined 4 losses between Greenfield Central and Jeffersonville of that group, other 2 teams being unbeaten. The Warsaw was upset yesterday by Bishop Lures, who may be the best team in 2A this year. But again, that Jeffersonville team without Trey Singleton, who then came back. At least playing the first game, didn't play in the second game, but Jeff looked the part when he was in there for half number 2. Fields were fantastic. Crowds were really good. Atmosphere was tremendous. No, it was a very high level of basketball last Friday and Saturday.
What games do you have coming up this weekend in the next few days?
So, Noblesville Warren Central tonight, and then Cathedral and Carmel tomorrow night. So we are now into the meat of the regular season schedule, and both those games can be seen on both ISC and my Indy TV 23.
He is Greg Rakestraw, ISC Sports Network. I have not looked over my right shoulder so much as I have this show. Is that Rob Kendall?
It was Rob Kendall,
He's giving you a thumbs up.
He was giving you a thumbs up, but is he...
With the shirt off?
It's got to be the shirt off. I can't see Rob Kendall, who doesn't... I don't think he likes any team. I know he doesn't like Purdue. I can't see him liking Notre Dame. Notre Dame has been unlikable his entire life.
Maybe in gambling matters.
Well,
that's why he went.
You know what he did
on that front. Rake, last one from me. I saw this a couple weeks ago, and I don't think they're wearing them for a little bit while. I think at some point in the month of January. These IUP, I shouldn't say IUPY, IU Indy Metros jerseys that they're going to bring out here. When is that coming up? And these jerseys look unreal.
That is January the 25th. That is Retro Metro Day. That is when they host Purdue Fort Wayne at the Jungle, 2 o'clock, a Saturday matinee. That is when they are honoring the 85 team that made the NAIA National Tournament for the first time. So during Bob Lovell's tenure as the head coach, made it to 94, they made the national tournament twice, 85 and 90. So they are going to wear the retro Metro gear that the team wore back in 1985. I am trying to convince Bob, in his later coaching years, rocked the beard. In his mid-'80s days, it was, imagine Jim Boeheim's glasses with Tom Selleck's mustache.
Ooh.
That was Bob Lovell's look.
Boy, that's a killer look.
I'm trying to convince him to go back to the mustache. Right now, I'm getting a no on that front. So,
I mean, he could easily rock that and rock it well, much better than I am currently with the shirt off.
Well, just take some of that chest hair, move it up. You'd be good. You got it.
I cannot wait for that. Rick, I can't wait for a week from Monday. Prayers to you for the post-game show coming up on Sunday, and we'll chat here next week.
Sadly, Kevin, I've done this post-game show before, so I'm used to it. Kind of the same thing from his previous Sunday's post-game show. We've had a lot of examples of those over the course of the last 4 years. And just so you know, there is a strict shirt-on policy in the Rakestraw Subaru. So just a heads up for next Monday.
Amen.
Noted. What do I need snack-wise again? What Mountain Dew, and then what was the...
it was combos,
was it combos? Pizza combos.
But because it's January, We're trying to kick in some new habits. So water, that will be good enough. Thank you.
Water and pizza combos.
I'm going. I'm no combos. I'm going to whatever calorie intake I will have will be at the bar next to the arena. So we'll be in good shape.
Amen. We will have the old fashions together. Thank you, Rake.
See you, fellas.
The great Rake Star right there. Payless Liquors Hotline.
Boy, we didn't. I won't bring the show down, but who did they play the other night? I watched a little bit of Notre Dame basketball against Georgia Tech. Yeah, I didn't want to say anything because things have been going your way. The football team.
We need Marcus Burton back.
We don't really
badly.
need to talk about it. But 7-6. Well, you got North Carolina on Saturday. By the way, North Carolina.
You guys
stinks.
coming over noon tomorrow?
North Carolina stinks. They are not good. That's a CBS game. Quickly, some news. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network. Have you seen this, by the way? Reporting that Curtis Rourke is going to undergo ACL revision surgery on Wednesday of next week, according to his agent. Rourke is believed to have retorn his ACL in August, yet amazingly played and led the Hoosiers to the playoff. One tough dude, says Tom Pelissero. So if we're to believe all of this, he had an ACL injury, and that was to his right knee, and he also had, at the end of the season, that thumb injury. How about that? That's that Signetti toughness.
So
That's
tore
what that
it
is.
at Ohio, right? Because people act like Ohio ACL, he could move a little bit. Obviously, if you watched him this year,
he's wearing a brace.
Certainly, the knee clearly had compromised him a bit. But I forget which game it was, Andy. I don't think it was the opener, but there was a game I felt like early in the season where I remember he took a shot right to the knee, and I think it was like on a third down, maybe. So they were punting anyways or something, or maybe kicking a field goal. And so I don't think Taven Jackson had to go in right away. And then Rourke ended up coming back into the game. I felt like it was somewhat early in the season. I remember being like, oh my gosh, that looked awful. Like, the NFL has really banned a lot of those hits, of the lower body hits on quarterbacks there. So, boy, that is gutty from Curtis Rourke.
The only one I can think of, Phil Rivers played that playoff game back when they were the San Diego Chargers with a torn ACL. And then remember when Jay Cutler didn't play in the game with an ACL injury? You guys remember that?
MCL.
Or was it an MCL, Mark? Remember?
Grade 2.
Everyone crushed him.
I remember that, unfortunately.
That's all they talked about is how
Mark
he's
was
not
all
a tough
over that.
guy.
Yeah.
Curtis
Jones-Drew was yelling at him.
That's exactly what it was. It was MJD who was angry at him. So I do like how Rakestraw told you that he's trying to eat healthy.
Well,
and you go, okay, I'll bring water and combos. And he's like, I don't want the combos. You got 3,000 calories in that bag. Come on.
How about Rake judging me for the shirt off?
He was...
What the hell?
He didn't sound like he cared about it nor wanted to have too much fun around it at all, honestly. Listen,
probably
don't
sits
look
in
at
that
me.
chair at some point.
Well,
pissed in his Cheerios on this Friday morning.
Maybe he had Georgia minus the number. I don't know. Maybe a Georgia minus 1.5 yesterday. I don't know what he had.
Can't see Rake on the edge of his seat, with that holding the Kirby Smart, Georgia.
I can't either. What was Kirby Smart complaining about when Marcus Freeman did the substitution and they drew Georgia offsides? I don't want to explain the entire play. If you didn't see it yesterday,
he thought that,
what did he think they did illegally? I couldn't tell what he was whining about over there.
He claims that the head of officials in the SEC told him you can't sub 11 for 11.
Okay.
Which I'm a little confused by because I'm like, wait a minute. On third downs, don't you sub 11 for 11 anyways when the punt team comes on?
Unless, I don't know.
Maybe you can't sub back 11 for 11.
Did they sub 11 for 11? Because some of the linemen would be the same, right? On third down and fourth down?
Right. Like, but they ran the punt team, full punt team out there. Then they ran the full offense back out there. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the ACC officiating Twitter account tweeted late last night, no, you can do that.
Okay.
I guess there's a big thing where, like, I don't know, as long as the snapper doesn't touch the ball. So I guess when Notre Dame ran the punt team out there,
the center just stood up.
As long as the long snapper doesn't touch the ball,
Lord heavens,
then you're good on this. So
gotcha.
Again, for those that have watched Notre Dame this season, they have done crazy stuff. I don't know. Do you remember the USC game, the fake punt they ran in that game?
Yeah.
So they ran it kind of fumble-rooski-ish, way backed up, and it worked big time, and it got called back for some illegal formation, and, Freeman was irate, and Marty Biaggi, their special teams coordinator, was irate, and it sounded like a lot of gray area on this. So mean, this is kind of what Notre Dame does. And you know what? I'll give Marcus Freeman a ton of credit. I think his growth and maturation as a football in-game coach has just skyrocketed. And it needed work, and it had issues. And there's been time where I know he's got the dude behind him who actually I think used to work for the Colts. So he's got his little, game plan dude right there who handles, clock and all of that.
Which every NFL coach should
sure,
have,
and every college coach should have.
and every college coach.
So, have that person right there. But, Notre Dame is a team that doesn't have a ton of margin for error because offensively they just aren't the most explosive unit. I mean, we're 2 games into this playoff, Andy, and Riley Leonard is yet to throw a consequential fourth quarter pass.
Do you know his average per completion yesterday? I'm looking at it. It's the only reason I know. He had 90 yards yesterday.
4?
It was 3.8.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Right. And he had the deep ball.
3.8.
And he had the deep ball to face on against IU to kind of ice it. But, that is still the biggest question mark. And they have to do some things differently. Like, they have to create turnovers defensively. They have to be excellent on special teams because they just aren't a very potent passing offense. And then with Jeremiah Love injured, that is a huge element to their explosive rushing attack. So, Riley Leonard said a postgame, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but you know what? Notre Dame just I thought they just out-physical Georgia on both sides of it. The Adon Schuler forced fumble early. That was a hit right to the ball. That was a huge play in that game. And obviously the strip sack there right before halftime.
I got a question for you. We'll get to a morning check down. I have a buddy who he does not like Kirk Cignetti. I won't say he's not a Purdue fan, but he's just
I didn't know those people existed.
He's jealous. He's jealous. Okay, his team can't do it, and so he's jealous of Kirk Cignetti walking in, talking junk, and going to the college football playoff. And he made a point, and I got thinking about it, and he's kind of right. Remember Indiana fans a couple weeks ago when they played Notre Dame? They thought Notre Dame was the good matchup. Remember that? And now Notre Dame has not only beat them, they went ahead and beat Georgia and are one of the big talks of all of college football.
Well,
isn't that just interesting?
I mean, everybody and their mother thought, Kurt Cignetti will outcoach Marcus Freeman. And anytime you say that, obviously there's a trickle-down effect to the entire staff. Well, Notre Dame thoroughly outcoached Indiana, and Notre Dame thoroughly outcoached Kirby Smart in Georgia. And I'll add what I said to lead off the show, Andy, and I don't think this is me speaking in hyperbole. I didn't feel SEC speed and Northern speed.
No.
On that Superdome turf.
No, especially like wide receiver.
I didn't sense, sure, Georgia had some big plays and they got behind the defense and they had a huge drop, but I didn't sense a huge discrepancy in just athletes, frankly. Obviously, Notre Dame, to me, was tougher, more physical. But I think Notre Dame, and this is a credit to coaching, I think they also are just so decisive out there. And you watch those linebackers play, and again, it's 2 Indiana kids, and Jack Kaiser, 24, and Drake Bowen, 34. I mean, those dudes they are instinctively great football players. They know what they're doing. And I think that influences some of their speed as well. And I thought when plays got to the perimeter, when you needed to make tackles on the perimeter, when Notre Dame needed to break a tackle, I thought Leonard outran some of those Georgia guys to the edge a couple times. And obviously he had the big flip there late to really seal the game. That to me stood out of, I didn't get the impression that, yes, physicality, I felt decent about Notre Dame in that game. But I thought from a speed standpoint, it actually looked like a pretty even 100-meter dash.
One more question, and I didn't ask you this in hour number 1, okay? There was 7.5 minutes to go when there was that 4th down where they did the substitution. And you were like the 20-yard line. Of course you punt there, but it's 4th and like a half yard. How much of a percentage was like, what if we went for this and ended the game? And ultimately, Marcus Freeman did something where he put his, on the table. I mean, he did something that was a little bit risky. Ultimately, in the end, much safer than lining up and running Riley Leonard up the middle. You got to punt there, but there was a part of me that was like, if they could get this first down, they're going to waste 4 more minutes on the clock, or Georgia's going to use every one of their timeouts, and the game's essentially over.
I was mid-front loader dumping sand on page 4 of Max Bowen's favorite book, but I will say I did.
Okay.
I was watching that faintly in the background to my right, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, there's no way they're actually going for it. When you saw the craziness, I just assumed delay a game penalty, something like that. And you know what you always see on those plays, or I shouldn't say always, but sometimes you do see like teams forget to snap the ball once they go off sides.
Oh, it's a great point. Yeah.
No. I mean, you got to snap it right away. And hell, Bo Collins almost came down to the ball on the, Leonard threw the bomb down the sideline there. So there was part of me when I looked at Freeman's face and he looked a little startled. I'm like, oh boy, is this a legal formation or is this a post-snap penalty?
Right.
To where Georgia could decline it.
I know.
Take over right there, and then boom, it's 23-17.
It was gutsy. No, it was up to the center. If you think they jump, you hike the ball, and you're going to throw a fly pattern, a run pattern down the sideline.
Yeah. Big
what
time.
We saw.
Dan Campbell, Onions right there. Let's check it now.
All right, let's start with the Pacers. 128, 115 winners over the Heat last night. The story from the game, 33 points, 15 assists, 5 rebounds, 0 turnovers in 35 minutes for Tyrese Halliburton in the win. Here's Halliburton postgame.
Be aggressive, get downhill, up and down season for me, scoring the ball. But I know if I get consistent paint touches, good things happen for us offensively. And, me and Coach had a good conversation on playing yesterday about what I can do better. And that constant conversation, relationship I have with him has been really beneficial for me. So, allowed me some freedom, played free today, had a good game, and thought that I controlled the game well today.
Yeah, Halliburton's great. Another double-double for Pascal Siakam. Pacers try to get back to 500 tomorrow night, hosting the Suns, 6:30 right here on The Fan.
All right, college basketball last night. Indiana shot it great from behind the arc there. They win in Bloomington over Rutgers. Pretty much in control of that one. Ace Bailey, the stud freshman for Rutgers, was outstanding without Dylan Harper alongside him. We'll see the Malik Renew injury situation, though. He did leave early with a knee injury. But again, Indiana, a rare shooting night for them from behind the arc. Purdue at the Barn. It's been a place where Purdue fans certainly don't look forward to that game too often. Very, very big from the Boilermakers in that one. Braden Smith, 20 and 10 and 0 turnovers. And that pretty much covers everything.
He's on a tear, isn't he?
He is on an absolute tear.
Braden Smith's stats at the end of the year, boy, they're going to be pretty gaudy. Let's take a break. Our predictions. I know you just cannot wait for our predictions on Colts and Jags. It's the segment of the week. We'll get to it. Who wins and why? We'll do it next year on this Football Friday on The Fan.
Well, that was impressive last night from Tyrese Halliburton in South Beach. Certainly bouncing back in a big, big way. Again, we mentioned these video game type numbers. I don't know if you saw this. Pacers sent this out last night. Tyrese Halliburton is the only player in the history of the NBA to go through an NBA game with 30 points, at least 30, 15 assists, 5 threes, and no turnovers.
Wow. It's pretty good. I mean, he had a great game. It's exactly what they needed.
That might be his best game of the season. I mean,
I think it is.
I know some people could point to maybe a little bit more of a marquee opponent, but you know, if you look at the Heat right now, they're 6th in the standings. I mean, that's the nice spot, to be in terms of out of the play-in. The Pacers certainly need to work their way up the standings. They haven't been above 500 and seemingly since the first week of the season. Hell, maybe even opening night. They'll need 2 more wins to try and do that, 17 and 18. But I thought Halliburton was outstanding. That'll be something maybe to ask Rick Carlisle when he joins us on Tuesday about, Tyrese mentioned after the game that plane ride down to Miami and, talking about, okay, when are you more of an aggressive scorer? When are you more of an aggressive facilitator? Last night, a little bit of both in a big, big way.
Yeah, I talked about this yesterday, KB. It's just, I don't think anyone's saying he needs to average 30 points a game. That's not who he is. He is going, he's going to run the show. He's going to be more of a point guard, but we know he can score, and at times he's going to have to score. And they don't always need 30 and 15 with 0 turnovers every game, but there's just going to be, when you're a supermax player, there are times that the team is just going to need you. There's really no other way to put it. That may be unfair. You saw another double-double last night from Pascal Siakam. So they're going to have to do that. And then, Miami is a team right now. You wake up today, Miami is still the 6th seed, and the Pacers are the 8th seed. You would expect, and we'll see, and I want to get to Jimmy Butler here quickly in a second, but, you would expect these two teams to be fighting for playoff positioning, perhaps a top 6 seed, whatever it may be. So last night's win, I know it's, early January, and we still have several months to go in the season, but, last night's win, it's good to win those sorts of games. We see that in the NFL. Who you beat, who you don't beat can matter when you come down the stretch. Now, can I play this Jimmy Butler sound for you quickly before we get to our Colts predictions? You have not heard this, right? Mark,
no, I saw the headlines.
Mark, have you heard this? So,
very candid, it sounded like from Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Butler wants out, and he's basically been saying, I want out, I want to be traded. He's got a lot of money left on, next couple years. I think next year his salary cap hits like over $50 million. So there's still a lot there, and they just haven't put too much around Jimmy Butler the last couple years. So he said he wanted out. Pat Riley came out last week and said, we have no thoughts of trading Jimmy Butler. And then I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, or 2 nights ago, some people around the Heat were calling Jimmy Butler out for not playing too hard. And so the relationship there is not good. After the game, he met with the media. Take a listen to this.
I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball. And wherever that may be, we'll find out here pretty soon. But I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court. But I want to be back to somewhat dominant. I want to hoop. And I want to help this team win. Right now, I'm not doing that.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
How about that?
Boy, that was a very quick last answer.
No, it was, but I love he's like, I have my joy off the court. Well, of course, he's in Miami.
Yeah, a lot of people would probably say that, right?
Yeah, I would imagine the scenery still is pretty good for Jimmy Butler in Miami.
When I say that he's trash, I mean that.
Man, he played 27 minutes last night, so he didn't have too much of an impact on the game. So there's some drama. If they get rid of him and they get worse, that's good for the Pacers in the playoff standings.
He's not even in my league.
I feel like my chest has grown since I have last taken off the shirt on the show.
Okay,
in a good way? You've been lifting some weights?
Well,
I disagree with you.
Really?
I mean, for the most part, yeah, I'm looking at the picture that Jason sent us 12 hours ago. I don't know. I'm comparing. You're still kicking around the same old headphones that are around the studio. Yeah. I have noticed that same pair is holding on for all these years somehow.
I feel like the breast area has gotten a little larger.
Again, it's the holidays. It's got through the holidays.
I don't know if I should say thank you guys for being my friends, or if I probably just need more brutal honesty from you guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're running around,
but you don't care what we think.
If you're running around the circle in a few weeks in full Borat, then I think we might have.
Are you guys good at
that?
If Notre Dame wins it all, maybe that Wednesday show afterwards, Notre Dame themed bikini.
Are we doing this like before the show, or are you
not
going to
a-
do this
well,
when it's a little
probably
busier?
after the show, so there's
I'm
light
busier.
out.
I might need the two-piece bikini, frankly, with what the chest looks like. But certainly a Speedo action there. I would think during the show, right?
Okay, yeah.
Well, how are we going to do that? We want some documented proof there. We got to take video and stuff.
Yeah, but can we take a Comrex outside and
I
do
don't
a
know.
segment?
Can you
or...
mic me up? Can you put the mic on one of these chest hairs and see if it fits?
Yeah,
but I
wax you
think-
like you're in 40-year-old virgin.
I kind of think the video, even though, we're mostly radio, we have the YouTube stream and everything else, but, I mean, the video here is actually probably more important than the actual audio.
I mean, let's be honest. I won't be the first person in just a Speedo running around the circle.
No.
You could probably get that at about 10:03 this morning if you head down to the circle.
Our boss, Jeff Rickard, says, I'm bringing donuts in. I'm not entering if you don't put a shirt on. Well, leave them at the door.
Yeah.
Like we're radio prisoners. Just leave them at the door.
Yeah. Here we have COVID in here. Leave those at the door.
Yeah, that's
Are you
exactly
guys
right.
surprised at all of the semifinal lines? Have you seen them yet?
I have.
Or betting lines?
I have seen them. Notre
Ohio
Dame favored.
Yeah, Notre Dame 1.5. Ohio State 5.5. Agree?
Yeah,
Disagree? Good with that?
I'm fine with that. Texas has not been able to put teams away.
Is Texas good?
Is Texas fake or real SEC? That's another great question, because that's the only team left in the SEC, and they just became an SEC team.
Like, I feel like I watch them, and I'm like,
yeah,
is this it?
But they're good, but they're...
Like, is there another gear that they just haven't shown, or is this just them?
They're good, but they're not always good for 60 minutes. And when they go bad, boy, they can go bad. They're a little up and down, so I'm not surprised. Ohio State, right now, this is the most respected Ohio State has been in 2 seasons. It is right now. They, like, to me,
Can you imagine where we were the Monday after the Michigan game?
To me, every college football analyst probably thinks that, and everything I've seen and heard and read, that that they're the best team right now in the country. Having Jeremiah Smith, who is now the next Julio Jones, and that entire
he'd be the
conversation.
best receiver on the Colts.
Yeah, Dan Orlovsky yesterday said he would. Dan Orlovsky said he would be the #1 pick in this year's NFL draft.
Yeah,
and I still don't believe that. Teams always stretch, and they always get one of these quarterbacks.
He is so good.
I mean, listen, I know he's good, but someone always just loves one of the quarterbacks. It happens every year. Please.
Ohio State or the field right now? Who are you taking?
The field.
Yeah, the field.
Ooh,
I'd still stay the field. Yeah,
I think a lot of people just say Ohio State.
Well, you still got 2 full games to go here. Texas is still a good team.
I kind of like Texas against Ohio State.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Are you of the thinking like Cotton Bowl's going to be 80-20, 90-10? It's kind of a road game, or is that
maybe?
I think Ohio State fans, I think, are the craziest in college football.
Oh, clearly, if you watch that Connor Stallions documentary.
I think they are. I think they are like Kentucky basketball. Like those people are insane people for the most part. Like I view it as the exact same. I view Ohio State football as the exact same. So I think it'd be very much 50-50. I don't think Texas will be overwhelming in that game. Do you? Or crowd-wise? I don't.
I don't know. The whole neutral site crowds, I think it's going to be interesting to keep on watching it unfold. I just feel like you're asking a lot for your fan bases to travel. Now, ironically, and I don't want to make too much of this because I frankly think it's simply the seeding and the guarantees of the buys to the Arizona States and the Boise States of the world. You have to change that process. I think I said that to you right after the bracket was finalized back in early December. A couple things I'd like to change. First off, I'd like to see quarterfinal games be played on campus. And I don't want to see the guaranteed buys for the Big 12, the ACC, and in this case, it was the Group of 5 in Boise because the ACC championship, ACC winner was so low. But like for Notre Dame and Penn State and Texas and Ohio State, all of these teams got the on-campus game. I don't think the bye was like detrimental to teams in a way that people want to make up that storyline. I mean, Texas was a huge favorite over Arizona State. Penn State was a huge favorite over Boise. Ohio State was the sneakiest 8 seed of all time.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And, Notre Dame did play a Georgia team with their backup quarterback. I don't think Gunnar Stockton was as deer in headlights as if you told me Notre Dame wins 23-10, I would have said Gunnar Stockton threw you the ball 4 times. He threw for 230, didn't have a pick.
He did okay.
And a receiver dropped a 70-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was horrific.
No.
But I don't think that storyline, Andy, of, oh my gosh, it benefited these teams to play a game before the bye. mean, Notre Dame lost one of their best defensive players against Indiana. I don't think that benefited them.
No, it didn't. And plus, Oregon, like everyone knew that Oregon was going to have to bring it against Ohio State. It's on them for not bringing it. It's on them for being down 4 touchdowns at the very beginning of the game. All right, our predictions. Final time we'll have to do that this season. We've been pretty good. You want to do it right here? You want to do it next segment? You want some time?
I'll be honest. What the hell's the line?
It's 5. Why are the Colts favored
it's,
by?
Colts minus 4.5, as I just checked. Minus 4.5.
Why is it 4.5, 5? ESPN has it at 5.
Jags 23-20.
Yeah, I'm taking Jacksonville 19-16.
I'm rooting for full chaos. Let's have the bottom fall completely out so there's no doubt massive change needs to happen.
We're all taking Jacksonville?
Yeah, Jaguars 16-13.
Oh, I thought you would take the Colts in this one. I really did. I thought you would take the Colts.
I think Brian Thomas might be the best player in the field. I think Jacksonville's D-line is still, like, intact. And I don't know. I feel like the Giants kind of threw the Colts around a little bit. So, Mac Jones' revenge game from what happened in Germany last year.
You're going to end the season Mac Jones beating Joe Flacco.
Can I be honest? I have no idea, and I don't freaking care. I mean, it's $12 on StubHub. I know I probably should sound differently because
it's $8 on StubHub.
Is it cheaper than that?
Oh, it's cheaper than that. You can get in. You can get in for $8. Yeah.
And I mean, with the snow in the forecast, what is that place going to look like? And oh man, it's just such a meaningless game.
Oh, goodness. All right, so KB's got his shirt off. Along those lines, I have a question for you guys after the break. We'll dive back into the Colts. Matt Taylor
My nipples are starting to get harder.
Well, they are. Matt Taylor, he joins us.
It's starting to get chilly in here.
At 9 o'clock. Right here, it's a Football Friday on The Fan.
Voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor, in 15. I don't think the draft position for the Colts can improve by too much Sunday. I believe they can only move up one spot. 12th currently in the draft order. So it's not like, the whole, hey, if all of a sudden you're going for the win in the final 2 minutes, I don't think you could get like a Giants situation that your Giants had last week.
And they're going to win this week. You watch. I already know it. I'm not going to be tweeting like I did last week. I'm just going to sit there in misery in the snow.
Now, a win, I guess on the reverse of it, a win, you could drop quite a few spots. Now, you get in strength of schedule, and it's kind of hard to exactly know how all of it will play out. But with a loss, you wouldn't improve your draft stock by that much. With a win, though, you could drop a bit. I threw some of these names at you earlier, Andy, and let me do it one more time. Again, this could be the final game for, I would say you probably have a half dozen free agent starters coming up next offseason. Kylan Granson, Mo Alley Cox, Ryan Kelly, Dayo Adengbo, EJ Speed, Julian Blackmon. Who do you stand on the table for?
None of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
who do you stand on a chair for the most?
Boy, Blackman's has had a rough season. I think they need everything. Everything needs to be different at tight end, right? Like, we would agree with that. I mean, the whole thing needs to be thought of differently. I don't think listen, I like EJ Speed, but I think I think someone will like EJ Speed a little bit more. I know he misses tackles. I might stand on the chair for him, but I don't really think there's anybody. If I'm being honest, and we're going to say, DeForest Buckner came out last week, or what was it, on Monday actually, and said, well, there's going to be change, and we know there's going to be tough decisions. There's going to be change. Well, if there's going to be change, the first part of that is not signing the guys that are free agents like you did last season. And then that gets back to something we mentioned yesterday and earlier today. In the entire Chris Ballard conversation, it's not just if you keep Chris Ballard that you're letting him have yet another year and you probably won't make the playoffs in that discussion. It's the fact of, if you're going to sign free agents, you have a draft class upcoming, you keep Chris Ballard. He's the one that's going to be signing contracts. So if you need a new linebacker and he goes out there and signs a linebacker to a 2 or 3 year deal, the next regime, if you think that, they keep Ballard and they don't make the playoffs next year, you're going to have to live with those contracts. And that's, kind of the big picture conversation. But I don't stand on the table for any of these guys. None of them. You got to start over somewhere. And it starts with letting some of your own guys go and getting some fresh blood into this organization.
Yeah, I don't stand on a table for anybody. I would look at Dayo Adengbo and think, okay, bringing him back makes sense.
Yeah.
You're getting a little bit older in the interior of that defensive line. I am not sold on Kwity Paye really at all as kind of a, number one outside rusher. I think Dayo brings some versatility. I think he's been pretty healthy post Achilles injury, which is something that's been important as well. But yeah, I don't stand on table for anyone, which is a bit surprising in this sense, Andy. I don't think they have obvious names behind them.
Oh, I totally agree with you.
Like tight end, you don't look at Kylan Granson and Mo Alley Cox walking out the door and be like, Will Mallory, Jelani Woods, Drew Ogletree, here we go. Like, no, you don't say that. At linebacker, I guess maybe Jalen Carlies, but still, there's not like an abundance of depth there. Safety, certainly, there's no one behind Julian Blackmon that you're all of a sudden clamoring to see more of. The only one that would have that would really be at center, Ryan Kelly to Tanner Bortolini, the 4th-round pick out of Wisconsin. So that is just one item that I get is probably on the back burner a lot here. I'm starting to shiver, by the way.
Are you cold?
Yeah.
You get a little cold? Well, if you
Can't you tell?
Listen, me and Mark are not like holding you down, keeping the shirt off. If you want to put articles of clothing back on at any point, you can.
We've been told there's donuts if you do.
Yeah, I'm now used to looking at your nipples. After the first couple minutes, the first segment.
Yeah, you actually have made more eye contact than I thought. You are a professional.
Me and Mark were basically just kind of
You're
having our
phased.
own little show, but at this point, you do whatever you want to do.
You're excited. Feel these nipples.
Thank you, Kevin.
I said this yesterday.
Mark put a different image on Twitter last night, to be fair,
did he?
of what he thought
I assume that was...
Oh, boy.
What do you mean?
I was glad that was
You want to go into detail what that was?
Well, you're the one that posted
You brought it up.
Did you put it on the show
Let's
page?
just say there's a guy who got pretty popular during COVID. People were trying to make jokes and everything like that. And he was sitting at the end of a bed. You know what I'm going? And I just said that's Kevin Bowen right now. That's Kevin Bowen tonight.
Oh, man. A buddy of mine said that to me about a year and a half ago. It's like, you got to check out this. And I clicked on the link, and it came up, and I was in public. Yeah, I was in public.
I've done that before. I'm like scrambling to hide my phone.
That's fantastic. He did. That did become popular during COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The things that became popular as we all sat in our
Safe
homes.
to say,
for
you don't need to worry about that in multiple ways from myself.
Hey, you guys think I should buy this mattress? And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Hey, check out the new car I got. Oh, okay, great. It's the guy on the end of the bed again. Okay, yeah, we all get it. Like, if they don't, I guess what's frustrating to me is if they don't run Ballard at the end of this, which I very well could see them not do that, right? I mean, you could see that, right? You know,
sure.
one more year for, one more year for everybody, one more offseason for Richardson, one more year. I mean, you're essentially asking Ballard, am I wrong, to rebuild large parts of this team this offseason. And, I know he's not a dead man walking contractually, obviously, but in fans' minds, this on Monday and Tuesday, if we're sitting around and they make some sort of decision that is, hey, we'll get rid of Gus Bradley, not much else, the Colts have let this relationship get toxic. And once it gets toxic, it's tough to go back. And Mike Woodson understands that. If he doesn't make the tournament this year, it's going to be toxic.
The thing about Ballard, too, when you have someone that is so steadfast in building through the draft, that you inevitably fall into stubbornness when it comes time to decide if changes need to be made to your roster or not, because he's so gung-ho about the draft, their ability to identify, scouting. We scouted these guys. These are our guys. It's our evaluation. We can develop them. It's not us. It's on the coaching staff, They need to develop it. Like, we all want to be right. I mean, that's the biggest human instinct probably there is. I think especially that calls for people in positions of high authority. I don't think that's necessarily the perfect quality to have, but, you want to be correct. You want to be right. We all just gave our stupid picks for the Colts and Jags game. You want to be right at the end of the day. You don't want to be wrong on that. But with his just beyond, again, I would call it kind of stubborn conviction to say, no, draft. First off, you put stress on an event that I think is largely can be viewed in a bit of a dartboard. Sure, you can create the ability to have more darts at the board, or maybe the bullseye looks a little bit bigger in how your process works, but still, it's a dartboard. And I think that refusal to try and use other avenues, i.e. early parts of free agency, because he has such a disdain for what handing out B contracts to A players can mean to the locker room. It's not like the locker room has been some sacred, great place right now. So I think that's another aspect to Ballard that I would question his overall blueprint.
God, and they just need so much going into next season. I mean, they're going to need work at linebacker, tight end, safety. I mean, I know that's not today, but if they move on from a couple defensive linemen, you're talking about there. Anthony Richardson's going to be a huge conversation piece. You have to go out and get a running back aside, that can be next to Jonathan Taylor, that is better than Shane Steichen's obsession with Trey Sermon. I mean, Tyler Goodson was he didn't do anything this year. He didn't do anything this year. You have to go out and get an NFL running back that can catch the ball out of the backfield. I don't know. I mean, you start doing it. There's 7 or 8 spots on this team where they need serious help. Help.
I would have one final plea to Jim Irsay, if I could.
Okay.
Heading into this weekend. Again, tomorrow is the 10-year anniversary of your last home playoff game. 10 years since you've last hosted a playoff game. I'd start there, but I'd also say this. Jim, let's go back to your press conference to announce Chris Ballard as general manager back in 2017. In Jim Irsay's words that day, I'm paraphrasing a bit, but it's pretty much accurate. It's the greatest GM resume of the 21st century, or greatest GM hire of the 21st century, something along those lines. Andy, there were 4 general managers hired in that 2017 offseason. 4.
Okay.
Chris Ballard was one of them.
Right.
For the umpteenth time in a row. That's 0 division titles. It's 1 playoff win. It's 2 playoff appearances. Brandon Beane was hired to be the general manager of the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. He's got the quarterback right, and he's built a beast.
5 division titles, went out and got the quarterback.
Yep.
5 playoff wins, 7 playoff appearances. John Lynch, hired out in San Francisco. That's 2 division titles, 8 playoff wins, 4 playoff appearances. And last but not least, rounding out the quartet of the I-step question of which one doesn't belong.
Is this one going to hurt the most? Because the other 2 have done a great job, obviously.
Brett Veach in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's what I figured, yeah.
8 division titles, 15 playoff wins.
Oh, poor Chris Ballard.
8 playoff appearances.
And the thing about John Lynch is you mentioned the dartboard of the draft, they've missed. And they've still been able to put until this year, they have still been able to put a damn good team on the roster.
I would take a couple Super Bowl trips.
Yeah, in fact, Lynch is drafted, and they've got so many good players that they've had to let some talent go.
Like if you just take the averages of those guys: 5 division titles, 9 playoff wins, 6 playoff appearances. That's the average. The Colts are 0-2-1. 5-9-6 is the average. The Colts are 0-2-1.
Wow.
So, again.
Wow, that might be the most damning stat you've given, honestly.
The same hiring cycle, the same offseason, and this is how those 4 franchises have gone down these respective paths. And I think you can make the argument in this lifespan of the 8-year cycle of Chris Ballard here in Indy, you would maybe call the 3 classes of the NFL those 3 franchises.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely Kansas City.
I don't know, maybe
San Francisco.
Baltimore, but I don't know if Baltimore's had the amount.
You could throw in there Philadelphia at some
Philly
point.
would maybe be in there.
But you're spot on.
I mean, we're talking 3 of the top 4, 5. I wasn't born yesterday, but that sounds like very upper quartile-y to me, and I would not call the Colts at all that.
We got to take a break. Do you expect Jim Irsay to have a press conference?
No.
Next week, or at all? So we're not. I'm just asking
Andy,
because
he's had 3 tweets since the Giants game. One was about some practice squad dude. I think he gave a thumbs up to Anthony Calhoun tweeting out events that happened in the state in the past year. And
oh man, what was the guy's name that they
I think
dumped?
he might have had a Pro Bowl tweet.
They had a couple guys make the Pro Bowl.
Tristan Hill, if I'm not mistaken, was the practice squatter. We hear from Irsay after wins on Twitter. We don't hear, and again, when I say Irsay, I mean the people running his account, and we don't hear from him after losses. So with 5 minutes to go in the game on Sunday, I will make the trot down to the local basement area of Lucas Oil Stadium and see if the owner would like to chat, but I'm not holding my breath.
You're probably not going to get a Jerry Jones situation at that. All right, coming up on the other side, our final installment of the season of Taylor's Tidbits. Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts, he joins us next.
Well, final hour of the week. Certainly keep an eye on that forecast coming up on Sunday into Monday. We'll see exactly how much snow we get, how that impacts the game, not only on Sunday, but certainly the start of next week. I have a feeling a lot of people sending their kids back to school, so potentially could be looking at that. I will say this: I don't know about you guys. Commute in, there was salt all over the roadways.
Oh yeah, it was fine. It was not a problem
On my commute in, and we ended up not getting really anything here locally, but certainly keep an eye on that. Coming up on Sunday, we have him on every Friday at 9 o'clock. It's our last conversation of the year with the one, the only voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor. Mr. Taylor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Phyllis. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Let's start here. Whenever the cheersing of the offseason begins and you look back on 2024 and you say, all right, guys that had good seasons for the Colts, I will start with the name Alec Pierce. Who else would you throw on that list? Obviously, team success-wise has not gone how the Colts wanted it to go. But individually, who else would you put on that list with Alec Pierce?
Yeah, I think individually you start with Pierce on offense. I still think Jonathan Taylor's had a terrific season. And even within that, you sprinkle in the fact that he's had great success up front, blocking the offensive line's done a really good job this year, and it's been a war of attrition up front. Within that unit, I think they've started 8 different offensive line combinations, but have to give credit to guys like Mark Glowinski, who stepped in about a month ago. I mean, literally was on the street or up in Zionsville and got the call, and has been a mainstay within the last month at the right guard spot. And then major tip of the cap, kudos to Matt Gonzalez. It looks like he's really starting to settle in at the right tackle position, and I think he's wherever he lands, whether that's a guard position or a tackle position, he's got the flexibility to be somewhere along this offensive line. He looks like a mainstay, and a really good draft pick by the Colts. And hopefully for his sake, he can start to settle in somewhere next season, again, whether it be guard or tackle, because the Colts potentially have voids to fill at both spots. And then on defense, the guy that immediately comes to mind is DeForest Buckner. I mean, he has just been sensational this year. And, statistically, he's probably had better seasons. In fact, I know he's had, because he missed some games this year for the first time in his career, landing on IR for the first time. He's so durable, takes such good care of his body, is always available. But he just has such an impact when he's out there. In fact, he needs only a half sack to have 7 straight seasons of at least 7 sacks. And the only other guy in the NFL that's done that in that stretch is Myles Garrett. And, Garrett he's more of a versatile guy that can play outside and inside. Buckner's more of a defensive tackle, but that consistency is just alarming. And he's one of the biggest leaders on this team. So, you look at the consistency there, the production, the disruption up front. DeForest Buckner has had another DeForest Buckner type season, kind of in the shadows, because this team is underperformed. It's underachieved on defense. It's not going to the playoffs. Plus, he missed some games this year with that injury. But even still, he's still performing at an elite level and is still one of the best defensive tackles in the game.
Boy, going back to week 2 and Matt Taylor joining us. I mean, Matt, if you remember, and I know you do, that week 2 injury to D-Buck, you thought he might be done for the season.
Yeah, I mean, he was on a pitch count, couldn't even really.
It was nasty.
He was. You could just tell he wasn't the same player, and so he needed to go on IR, and he did. But as soon as he came back, I mean, he didn't. He had no rust. He had no, ramp-up time, if you will, in terms of coming back and being the same disruptive player, which is why it's so impressive.
All right, so let's go down this same vein. Let's move the Ballard stuff and the Steichen stuff. We know Anthony Richardson coming back next year as the starting quarterback. Move that aside. There'll be decisions that will need to made, in the next few days, week, a couple weeks, whatever it may be. When we talk about attacking parts of the roster that need improvement, what positions do you look at that you're interested in watching what they do this offseason?
Well, you start on offense. Everything about the passing game's got to get better. Anthony Richardson has to improve. I mean, you can't live at 47.7%. and expect to win big. And the Colts have won a lot of games this year where they are sub 200 yards passing and sub 50% completion percentage, and it's just not sustainable. They've won those games because they have overcompensated in other areas. In some of those games, the defense has gotten some takeaways. The running game has masked it. The offensive line's played well. But you get what I'm saying, right? To win big in the NFL, you're not going to win big completing less than half of your passes. And the receivers have to do their part. It's not all on Anthony Richardson. There's been a lot of drop balls. There hasn't been, consistently winning on the outside with one-on-one matchups, so on and so forth there on offense. Defensively, you fall off on the pass rush. The overall sack numbers are way down from last year. Last year you set a franchise record with 51 sacks. This year you're at 34. You had none last week against the Giants. The middle of the field is consistently wide open for tight ends and wide receivers for big gains and yards after the catch. The completion percentage allowed is last in the NFL, and you've allowed some mediocre to, below average quarterbacks have big games against you. Caleb Williams and Justin Fields, and Drake May's a rookie. I think he's going to be a good player, but still you can't give up 80% completion percentage to him in that game against New England. Drew Lock goes nuts, 4 touchdowns, runs one in. Those are the biggest things that have to be addressed. And, the hard truths of this team, there's 3 of them, in my opinion. This is sort of tangential, I should say, on my part. But there are 3 hard truths about this team going into Week 18 and thus the offseason. Hard truth number 1 is you had so many missed opportunities. And it's tough when you are, in the moment, right, when you're in Week 2 or Week 5 or Week 7 or Week 8 and you're playing the Jaguars or the Packers with a backup quarterback or the Houston Texans, and you say to yourself, these are must-win games. Well, in the moment, they're not. But if you look back on them, they really are. So many missed opportunities. That Packers game, you lose 2 games to Houston by a combined 5 points. The Jacksonville game where they score 37 in a game where the Colts rack up over 300 yards of passing and over 400 yards of offense with a backup quarter and Joe Flacco. Major missed opportunity there. Again, you look at the game last week against the Giants. That game speaks for itself, too. So major missed opportunities. That's hard truth number 1. Hard truth number 2 is now in the last, 2 months, a lot of stuff about the culture of the team has come public. The benching of the quarterback. Kenny Moore says some stuff after a game. DeForest Buckner this week has called out or has said some of the leaders on the team have had to hold guys accountable in terms of attention to detail and work ethic and preparation and things like that. That's not good. And then thirdly, again, the defense for the 3rd straight year is 27th or worse in points allowed. I think in the last 7 games, the Colts are giving up over 30 points per game. And again, Drew Lock and company, the Giants last week, they scored 45, and 38 of that came on offense. They had the kickoff return for a touchdown. But they had more points in that game against the Colts than they did in their 3 previous games combined. And that was a must-win game for the Colts, and the Giants were playing for the number 1 overall seed. So that's the reality of the team. Those are the hard truths that this team has to face and to deal with going into the offseason.
Again, he is the voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor. Sunday, 1 o'clock, our coverage will begin right here on The Fan. I'll join JMV early at about 9 a.m. from Bullseye, and we'll get you set for the season finale here in the 2024 season, the start of 2025. Our final time, Mark Dykton, cue the music. It's Taylor's Tidbits.
All right, Taylor's Tidbits to close it out, fellas. Again, despite the disappointment of missing out in the playoffs, let's talk about some milestones because some guys can achieve some big things on Sunday. Let's talk about Zaire Franklin. He needs 15 tackles, and if he gets that, he's going to pass himself for the most tackles in single-season team history. He set the record in each of the last 2 years in 2022 and 2023 for the single-season tackle record. Jonathan Taylor, I thought this is a really big one, and perhaps he can do it. It would be lofty on Sunday, but we'll see what happens. Jonathan Taylor needs 164 rushing yards to reach 6,000 career rushing yards and become just the 2nd Colts player ever in franchise history to reach that mark. The only other guy to do that is Edgerrin James, and he's the franchise leader in rushing all time with a whopping 9,226 rushing yards. But it would be pretty cool if Taylor could reach 6,000 career rushing yards before 2025. But both players, Franklin and Jonathan Taylor, have made the Pro Bowl, so pretty cool for them, and we'll see if they can go out on even more high notes individually coming up on Sunday. You mentioned Alec Pierce. Last week went over 100 yards for the third time this season. He has posted 6 catches this year over 40 yards, and he ranks first in the NFL in yards per catch, 21.9. No player has averaged over 21 yards per catch on at least 35 catches since 2010, when a pair of players did it. It was Deshaun Jackson and Mike Wallace. Both of those guys did it in 2010, and good on Alec Pierce again, like we talked about, 767 yards receiving on the season, and I think he's really turned into a guy the Colts can build around going forward, and somebody that can be a long-term playmaker as he heads into his 4th season with the Indianapolis Colts. Speaking of playmakers, the Jacksonville Jaguars have one. And here's a good rule of thumb, all right? I'm not a GM, but if I was drafting, if there's a receiver out of LSU available in the draft,
no kidding,
just go ahead and grab that guy, all right? Brian Thomas for the Jacksonville Jaguars, the next great Tiger in the NFL, following in the footsteps of guys like Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry and Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase and Malik Neighbors and some others. Thomas, unfortunately, drafted 8 spots after the Colts selected Laiatu Latu, and looks like the Colts are in for trouble in terms of having to face him twice a year, every year now, going forward. He has set the Jaguars' rookie single-season franchise records for receiving yards, catches, and touchdowns, and he joins Randy Moss, Odell Beckham Jr., and Jamar Chase as the only rookie receivers in NFL history with 1,100-plus yards and 10 touchdowns. He's also a big play machine. He's got 6 catches over 40, just like Alec Pierce. He's got 5 over 50, which is the most in the NFL this year. And crazy, he's got a catch of at least 30 yards in 5 straight games. And remember back to Week 5, he had that 85-yard run and catch for a touchdown against the Colts. That's the longest by a rookie in franchise history, the second longest completion in Jaguars team history, and the 6th longest catch in the NFL this season. So Brian Thomas, man, oh man, looks like a superstar already in the NFL.
I know a lot of people, Matt, probably don't want to even think about that first game in Jacksonville or care, but when I thought back to that game, you obviously bring up the big play to Thomas. What a huge, huge play that was. I remember Christian Kirk, I swear it was 2nd in a million, maybe even 3rd in a million.
Yeah.
And he had didn't he have like a 40 or 50 yarder as well in that game?
Well, they had some really big, I'd have to go back
60.
and look, but yeah, I mean, there was a lot of explosive plays, and that Jacksonville game and this past game and the Giants are really, really similar because of the point total allowed and, letting a bad offense get going. Trevor Lawrence had a career day that day, but the longest pass play and the longest rushing play the Jaguars have had this season came in that game against the Colts. Bigsby had a 65-yard run. Thomas had an 85-yard run. They also had a 53-yard punt return in the second half by Devin Duvernay. So across the board, all 3 phases, the Colts, they just, they didn't play complimentary football in that game, and that's been the theme for most of the season. And it goes back to that hard truth number 1 that I talked about. How many missed chances for this team because you're 16 games into the season and you're still, asking yourself or wondering if this team's ever going to put it together in terms of playing complimentary football where one side of the ball shows up and the other doesn't. They just haven't consistently, put it together on the same day at any point this season.
He is voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor. Matt, we've had one other show guest on today. That was one person you and I both know very well, Greg Rakestraw. I would say he scolded me for having my shirt off here on this Friday morning. He talked to me like the nuns used to talk to you back at St. Jude back in the day.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Time out. What? Why are you shirtless, my friend?
I'm shirtless. Notre Dame defeated Georgia last night in the Sugar Bowl, 23-10. It was a huge victory for the Irish. It is a win that has eluded me in my fandom here for years.
It sounds like Matt Taylor reviews it just like Greg Rakestraw.
I am now getting the early impression.
I was having a really good Friday morning, and now I have the images of body hair.
Correct.
And belly button lint, and I mean,
I haven't checked
chest
that,
hair.
but I'm checking it now.
Yeah,
Did you shower this morning, by the way?
No,
because you're working out after the show.
I actually just got the lint out. I will keep that to myself.
Ironically, he's working out and going to put a shirt on.
Yeah, how about that? Exactly. Normally, it's
so you're just as disgusted as Rakestraw was. Is the impression I'm getting?
Yeah, Kevin does like a curl, and now he takes his shirt off and thinks he's the Hulk or something in front of the mirror downstairs at Radio 1. Man, I've seen that image way too often.
I get the one drip of sweat, and I'm like, man, I feel like I've ran a marathon. Here I am.
Let's go.
Time to hit the shower. So you are disgusted. Are you more disgusted that I'm celebrating a quarterfinal win, or that I'm, as you described it, sitting here with my chest hair out and lint in my belly button?
No, I mean, I think I'm more impressed than anything, man. And great dedication by you, and congratulations to the Irish. They just completely whooped up on Georgia yesterday. So I'm impressed with the dedication and the consistency by you to not only say you're going to do something, but then deliver and then stick to it, not try to back out, not try to find a loophole. Man, you are shirtless, and you are rocking it, and we are getting Kevin Bowen in all of his glory today, and that is something to be celebrated.
Thank you. That was a 180 there from Greg Rakestraw. Thank you, Matt Taylor, for that. I promise when I see you here in 2 hours.
I'm still grossed out by it, but I think it's pretty cool that you're sticking with it.
Well, in 2 hours, I promise to have a shirt on when I see you in the Colts media room.
Nah, God bless you, brother. You're the best.
It's probably our final convo with them this year. I think we usually chat with them at the Combine. Matt Taylor, can't thank you enough. I know you are a busy man in weeks like this, and this one still matters to you. It's still 3 hours of you being a pro. So thank you for that, and we appreciate all of our chats on these Fridays, man.
I appreciate that very much. And, I mean, this doesn't have to be our final chat. I mean, my cell phone still works in the month of February, all right? So if you need me, call me. I'm here.
Well, thank you for that. We will give you some deserved time off, sir. Thank you.
All right, fellas. Have a great weekend.
That is the one and only Matt Taylor right there on the Payless Liquors.
I mean,
what's up, shirt off?
Doesn't Maytay know? I mean, after the Colts, we'll transition to firing our next coach, Mike Woodson. We'll just go right from the Colts.
Hey, that was a big win for Woodson last night, right?
By the way, I found your completion to Christian Kirk. He had a 61-yard completion,
and it was second in a million, was it not?
Yeah, here it is. It's the third quarter. Oh no, it's early fourth quarter. It's a 10-point game. It's 27-17. There's 13:39 on the clock. It is a 2nd and 24. Jacksonville backed up to the 16. On first down, they had a big play to Brian Thomas. No shock there, but there was a face mask penalty on one of their offensive linemen. So it's 2nd and 24, backed up to the 16. Trevor Lawrence down the middle hit Christian Kirk for a 61-yard completion to the Indianapolis 23-yard line. Again, 10-point game. You get them backed up. You get a stop there. You get the ball back. You get a score. It's a one-score game with, 8, 9, 10 minutes to go. We got a football game. Christian Kirk, boom, they end up scoring a touchdown. They had a touchdown to, I believe, Brian Strange, the tight end, for 4 yards, and that essentially ended the game.
And the rookie kicker, right? He's the one that made it right down the middle, if my memory serves me right.
Their kicker's name was, and boy, I should know this, Cam Little. He was 3 of 3 on the afternoon.
How about my boy Jeter? How about Derek Jeter's nephew? It's not Derek Jeter's nephew. How about Mitch Jeter last night?
I mean,
boom!
You told me,
he's healthy.
This kicking game stinks. The kicking game's been good the last 2 games.
He got healthy.
Good for him.
He got healthy. He made big kicks in A&M to start the year. Big kicks last night in the Georgia Dome. I know the final score doesn't maybe necessarily indicate it. I did think Notre Dame really controlled that game. I don't know. I never got the uneasy. When 4th and 1 at midfield, when Leonard didn't pick that up, that was the first time I thought, oh boy. But that immediate defensive stop on the next drive by Notre Dame, that's when I was like back to, okay, I really don't think Notre Dame's not going to give up 2 long drives. That's kind of where I was at.
How and I know they're injured. How injured was Cross and Love. For people that don't know, Howard Cross is yet another great defensive lineman. He went down early fourth quarter, I want to say,
and I'm nervous
of that game, and Love hasn't been right in 3 weeks, 4
so
weeks.
Love had the knee brace back on after the game. He's battled the knee since USC. Cross injured his ankle, I want to say, like early November, and it looked like that was an ankle again. He came back and finished, but still, I think they should and will beat Penn State. But I still sit here and say to you what I said prior to the Georgia game. At some point, these injuries have got to catch. I mean, it is a masterpiece what Marcus Freeman and that staff have done.
Well, and they're NFL guys.
And I mean, they're losing
really good
their
players.
best players.
Yeah.
And yet they have still been able to piece it together. So I know Penn State's stud rusher Abdul Carter got hurt in the Fiesta Bowl, but obviously they've got Tyler Warren. I think their backs are really good. Penn State. I mean,
they are.
They
They're
ran
a good
for
team.
what, 300 against Oregon.
No,
they ran for over 200 against Fiesta.
And how do
Boise.
you say the last name? I always forget. Drew Alar. Is that how you say it?
Right?
Yeah. I can't tell. I think he's good. I can't tell how good he is.
Yeah, I want
Penn
Notre
State.
Dame to have to prove if he's good or not,
Right.
if you catch my drift. I don't think he could put the team on his back.
I agree with you.
He just seems to chuck it up to Tyler Warren, and Warren comes out with it.
Now, I like Tyler Warren a great deal. Should we view him like Brock Bowers? I mean, the Colts are going to be in position. I know it's early, but the Colts get the 12th pick. I know it's early. Brock Bowers is a study at 100 catches for the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm not married to tight end at 12. If I'm going to be honest. It's a need, don't get me wrong. But
it's more of a second or third round need.
Just a hair rich for my liking. All right, still got to get our popcorn game. Hardest, easiest games. Let's hit a morning check down. And what was a nice night?
All right, 128-115. No Pacer sound here, Mark. Let's get to some IU sound here in just a second. 128-115. That's your final last night. Pacers go on the road. They get the win. The story, really, Tyrese Halliburton, 33 points, 15 assists, 0 turnovers in the win last night. Quite frankly, KB, a game that we've been waiting for him to have. If not the best game, the second or third best game he's had this season. Pascal Siakam, 18 and 11. And now Jarris Walker, I need to look this up. Was it 7 or 8 games in a row now? Jarris Walker's been in double figures, scored 12 last night. Pacers in action tomorrow. You can hear it 6:30 right here on The Fan. Hosting the Phoenix Suns. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker in town.
All right, Andy will get to the college basketball in just a second, but to put a bow tie on our quarterfinals, coming up Thursday, it's Notre Dame and Penn State from the Orange Bowl. Notre Dame a slight favorite in that one, and it will be the Cotton Bowl. Texas will certainly have some sort of home field advantage, and they're going to need it because Ohio State looks like an absolute wagon at this point. 5.5-point favorite. That'll be Friday. So Thursday, Friday, our semifinal games, 7:30 start times for those, and then the national title will be 2 weeks from Monday down in the ATL.
College basketball-wise, Purdue 81-61 last night over Minnesota. Braden Smith continues to be the story. 20 points, had 6 rebounds, the 10 assists there, doesn't turn the ball over. Just 3 turnovers for Purdue last night. They pull away late. They win by 20. So, again, they've had some rough games in Minnesota, so a win is a win there. Indiana by 10, 84-74 over Rutgers. Ace Bailey last night was the story, though. He had 39 points. Ridiculous from Rutgers. Dylan Harper didn't play. Otherwise, obviously, that game is a bit different. I think for IU, besides bringing Ballo off the bench, the big story, the injury, the knee injury there to Malik Renew. Here's Mike Woodson postgame on the injury.
Right now, we got to evaluate him tomorrow. He couldn't come back in the game, and he's a big piece to the puzzle. He's going into this game. He was our leading scorer. So we'll evaluate him tomorrow through our medical staff and see where he is. And if he can't play, it's next man up. We just got to continue to go whoever's in uniform.
Couple bullet points to round out our headlines. How about this? Curtis Rourke reported today the IU quarterback played through a torn ACL this season. They said injured that knee back in August. If you notice, he did have a pretty bulky brace on really throughout the year. And he also tore his ACL back at Ohio. So it sounds like maybe a little bit of a correction on the previous ACL surgery / he injured it back in August. That is toughness personified there. Jaden Ivey, that was an awful scene the other night.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday.
In the NBA.
It's too bad.
Announced yesterday broken fibula.
Yeah.
So I don't know much, but broken bone better than ligament. Right?
Yeah, I guess.
Isn't that the general thought?
As soon as you saw that injury, you knew
it was
kind of what it
horrifying.
was.
He's going to be out for a long, long time.
It's too bad. Yeah, you might be right.
Especially for an explosive player like Ivy. And then how about this? The New York Jets, they obviously looking for head coach Mike Vrabel, interviewing at their facility today.
Yeah, Vrabel's interesting, right? We're all pretty interested in where Vrabel goes.
Vrabel, Flores,
he's the story,
Ben
right?
Johnson, Aaron Glenn. Who else am I missing?
Yeah,
that seemed to be the big four.
Who's more interesting to you guys, Ben Johnson or Vrabel? I know for Mark it's Ben Johnson because of the Bears and Caleb Williams, but you're going to end up going with Cliff Kingsbury, so it won't matter anyway.
I hope not.
It won't matter anyway. Those are to me. Those are the two. Ben Johnson being the most coveted, and then when you talk about a CEO changing a culture, Dan Campbell type leadership, you think of Mike Vrabel, do you not? And of course, the Jets are interviewing him without a GM.
Yeah, if I'm Mike Vrabel, I probably am like, thanks, Jets, but no thanks.
Yeah, stay away from the Jets. So we'll figure that out as we go. Reminder, later on the show, about 9:45, 20 minutes or so from now, we'll have our Freebie Friday pop quiz. On the other side, popcorn game, easiest game, toughest game. We'll talk some NFL. We'll do it next here on a Football Friday.
I'm probably getting a little too far ahead, but I wanted to throw this at you in regards to Notre Dame's win last night. Do you look at that in any way like Purdue's Elite Eight win back in April?
Ooh, I like that. So like they got over the hump type thing?
Well,
yeah, maybe.
But hear me out a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, Purdue, you hadn't gotten to a Final Four in X amount of years. Notre Dame, you hadn't won the big game in X amount of years, okay? That's pretty easy to kind of compare those two. There's probably a little bit more, honestly, for Notre Dame in the fact that it was an SEC team. You know, Georgia hadn't lost to an SEC opponent in how many years, or a non-SEC opponent in how many years. Like, that might be a little bit of a difference. But Purdue, it almost felt like they still needed to validate it with NC State. Like, if you lose to NC State, you know, would that have lost a little bit of the luster? And I think we look back on Purdue's season and think, I mean, what a great, unbelievable year, tremendous. I don't, if they lost the Final Four, would we have still stamped it? And that's kind of where I'm at with Notre Dame and Penn State.
It's a good question. I would say this. If Purdue, unfortunately, and I can just hear the voice of my man Mike DeCourcy in my head right now, if Purdue would have lost to NC State, there would have been room to still make fun of Purdue. The fact that they lost to UConn, people don't hold it against them that they lost to UConn just because of what UConn has been to college basketball over those last couple years, right? So I would say that. I think I don't know. I guess for me there was maybe a little bit more. I don't know. Was there more validation? Purdue went into last year having to have made the Final Four.
I guess that is
with Zach Edey. Had in that team,
and Notre Dame didn't have Fairleigh Dickinson the year before.
Notre Dame was one of several thought to be elite teams. I think what Notre Dame did is they kind of shed their own issues that they've had in big games. And so have they done that nationally now? I don't know the answer. Like next year, I think Marcus. I'll tell you this. I think Marcus Freeman has gained more respect, maybe even more so than just Notre Dame football. Does that make sense? I was very quiet. I thought Brian Kelly, as much of an AH as Brian Kelly has been, I viewed Brian Kelly as a very good coach, right?
Yeah,
I did. I mean, whatever you want to say.
I mean, he did an outstanding job in Notre Dame.
I viewed him as a pretty good coach, and so I felt when he got ejected from town, okay, when he left, I felt in hiring Marcus Freeman, those sorts of hires don't usually work out. In other words, I kind of felt it was the lazy thing to do. What is Notre Dame football who could go out and pay whatever and go get almost whoever? Why are they settling for a young defensive coordinator that we don't know anything about? And then he had, like you mentioned, a little bit of a rough start. I think that's the biggest change with Notre Dame is I think we now go into next year with people having more respect for them because of their head coach. And listen, I know this year they were a preseason top 5, 6, 7 team. I get that, so I might be wrong, but if you're being honest with yourself, you didn't think Marcus Freeman was one of the better coaches in college football, that he was a top 10 coach in college football. I'm going to leave this season feeling that he's a top 10 coach in college football. In fact, I'll go a step further. I could maybe even do this now, but definitely after next week, if they go beat Penn State, I'd rather have Marcus Freeman than James Franklin.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, if you would have told me the Monday after the NIU game, as Mark just danced on my grave with that tweet post-game, that Notre Dame would run the table and beat 5 or 6 ranked teams, and several of them away from home by multiple scores. I mean, I don't even know what I would have said to you on that Monday. It's just so stunning to have the Northern Illinois game and then for the season to play. And not to mention, I don't think they've gotten a great injury card at all on top of that. And it's not like Riley Leonard's had a resurrection. I think he's a great runner. I think he's a tough as hell individual. But
he can't throw the ball.
Yeah. he hasn't had a consequential throw in the fourth quarter of either of these two games.
Right.
And so now that becomes the question. Can Tom Allen,
I know.
Can Tom Allen turn him into that? And how much will the Jeremiah Love injury impact things for Notre Dame? Again, that game coming up Thursday night from the Orange Bowl in Miami.
Okay, so we can get to our easiest, toughest, and popcorn game. Just quickly, I want to update a couple scenarios. Again, for this weekend, the Ravens and Steelers are playing for the AFC North title. So the Ravens, they host the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are playing 2 or 3 different quarterbacks, so they should win that. The Ravens should win, and they should win the AFC North title. If not, Pittsburgh, if they beat Cincinnati, they'll win it. As for the Bengals, okay? So the Bengals play Pittsburgh. That's in Pittsburgh. That's the Saturday night, 8 o'clock game. When the snow is starting here in central Indiana, you can just nuzzle up and watch some AFC North football. The Cincinnati Bengals need to win on Saturday night, and then they need a Denver loss in Kansas City, and they need Miami to lose or tie at the New York Jets. And by the way, I think the Jets will beat the Miami Dolphins on Sunday. So I think that will happen. I do.
Do you see the spread in Browns-Ravens?
So, well,
what is it?
You got
-20.
Oh my goodness.
Again,
that's your lock of the week.
That's my lock.
Okay. So that's your easiest game of the week.
20 points. I mean, if the Ravens get a lead, don't they rest?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've ever seen -20.
I don't think I
ever have.
Like, we've seen -16 and 17. We've seen it.
Now,
and you see it in college football, right? When, Alabama plays, whoever.
Why is Cleveland not playing Jameis, by the way?
You see a -38.5.
Well,
they probably want to lose.
I mean, let's just start there. That's my easiest game.
Okay, yeah.
What do you guys have as your easiest?
I have the Eagles -3 against the Giants. I know Saquon's not playing, but he's got a commercial taking shots at the Giants now. The Giants are dead. I know they beat the Colts,
Boy,
but
they are
that's
so
the Colts' fault.
They are so dead. I'm actually with you, KB. That's probably my game. That seems ridiculous. If you're the Ravens,
it's the National Football League.
-20 seems ridiculous, doesn't it? It just does. I mean, like,
I
even
swear, if it's 27,
I thought I was reading it
if
wrong.
it's 27-3, I'm gonna cry. No, it opened up at like 18.
I think
and it's risen to 20.
Is the popcorn game for everybody the same? Is the Vikings line?
Wait. Let's
Okay.
go in order.
Sorry, go
Easiest
ahead.
game. What do you got?
Yo, that's what I had.
So you and I are on the same
yeah,
page.
we're
Mark
the same
Stone
page.
Eagles. Let's go to hardest.
Okay.
Hardest. I think every single game in Week 18 is hard besides Browns Ravens. Who the hell is playing?
Yeah.
For these teams, and then secondly, when do teams bail on the guys that they are playing?
Right.
So Buffalo says they're going to play Josh Allen so he can keep his start streak intact.
I mean, I guess, and then after
so is
the
that
first,
one series and he's done?
I know it's a couple possessions and then they're out of there.
I think this is the most difficult week of games to pick. I literally asked you guys an hour ago. I don't even know what the Colts-Jags line was. If you told me the Jags are favored by 3, I'd be like, sure. If you told me the Colts are favored by a touchdown, I'd be like, sure.
Yeah, it's Colts -4.5, but there are wild spreads everywhere. Like
Lions-Vikings to me is the only game where I'm like, okay, everyone's playing, right?
It's the real game. We're we know that both teams are going to be out there playing their guys.
Like the Falcons are 8-point favorites against the Panthers. I'm like, why?
Who can they beat by 8?
Why?
I think the Panthers have probably put it away. I mean, last week, they put Chuba Hubbard and a bunch of defensive guys.
The Falcons are still playing
IR.
for something, right?
They are.
They have an outside shot of getting the NFC South if the Bucks lose to the Saints, which the Bucks are 2 touchdown favorites against New Orleans.
Yeah, Atlanta, how they can win the NFC South is they win, they beat Carolina, and Tampa Bay loses to the Saints. That's
so again,
how.
the NFC's got 2 things. That and then Lions-Vikings for the 1 seed. Andy went over the AFC. I guess if you guys want to transition to popcorn game, if the Browns win...
My hardest game, by the way, is Bengals-Steelers. I think Bengals -2 is a tough one. Did we do hardest yet?
Yeah, but again, what are they...
Exactly.
So that's why I go to popcorn game. So popcorn for me is if Browns win, give me Bengals-Steelers as my popcorn game. Because then the Steelers would be playing for the AFC North crown, and the Bengals would be playing to keep their season alive. Of course, they still need help. I mean, outside of that, it's got to be Lions-Vikings, right?
Yeah.
The only other one I would throw out there is Chiefs-Broncos. If the
Carson
Chiefs,
Wentz.
I actually think it's a sneaky good one.
If the Chiefs and Carson Wentz,
I like it.
They have a DNA. If you told me this game was 17-17 late in the fourth quarter and Bo Nix and company had to work their ass off to get a win and to get into the postseason, I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I mean, Denver's favored by 10.5 in this one, KB. I know we make, and part of it's having fun with Carson Wentz. Don't act like I'm not smiling when I say that. I just think, I don't know. You think the Chiefs are going to go up there and lose 30-3? I don't. There's always that game at the end where a team's sitting everybody and they just give someone just an absolute pain in the ass in that final game for no reason. And I could see this being the case with a bunch of backup players. I absolutely could. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that is a good sneaky popcorn. I like that outside of the box thinking on that.
Yeah, someone said imagine you're your playoff hopes relying on the arm of Carson Wentz. I'm like, well, luckily the Colts don't have to worry about that.
We talked about this yesterday. Are you surprised at all they're sitting Saquon Barkley?
I just had a big itch of the belly.
You did. I saw that
on the YouTube stream.
Still got the red mark there on your stomach. I'm looking at it.
Sorry about that.
101 yards to beat the record against his former team.
Nick Sirianni.
They're already the 2 seed, and Nick Sirianni's a big talker, and he's doing this.
Knowing Nick, that man loves pettiness. Loves it.
Exactly.
I am a little surprised he's not doing it. I kind of respect him not doing it because, can you imagine if he all of a sudden put him out there and, high ankle sprain?
Yeah.
Done for the month of January. I actually respect him, showing the maturation of sit back from the table, take your chips with you, go into the playoffs.
I thought I knew him, and I no longer know him.
I told Andy, I said, if the Giants would have fired Frank Reich, then Nick Sirianni would have played Saquon Barkley.
Well, you're not wrong.
Well said.
You're not wrong. So, all right, it's a Freebie Friday, 239-1070. Load them up, 317-239-1070. We'll get to it. Pop quiz. Can't wait. First one of 2025. We'll do it next.
Rounded out here on the pop quiz. Did not see anybody in the break room, luckily, when I went out and got water. Had the jacket on over the bare skin.
That might be a weirder look than just going shirtless, is putting the jacket on. Because you're not putting the shirt on, too.
Squeezing my arms together. I didn't even zip it up.
I was about to say, do you zip it up? I didn't think you did.
I figured it was a Friday. Who the hell's in here? You know?
Well, the answer is no one. Not in level 4. You're good to go. You just run into Couple of the IBC knuckleheads. That's about it,
I
man.
didn't see anybody. Lights were off in
That's
some
about
offices. I was like, this is great.
Rob Kendall's on the air, so he's good to go.
I might go naked here a couple Mondays from now, a couple Wednesdays from now, whenever I get back. All right. How does the pop quiz look? I haven't even scanned it.
I scanned it. I mean, I'm looking at it, and to me, 3 or 4 of these I think are relatively simple. I got to be honest. This is an easy one from Scotty. It's a freebie Friday. He's feeling good about himself in 2025.
This is so easy now that I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple on here that you absolutely should know.
Yeah, 5's the only hard one, really.
Basically, yeah. There's no 1952 hockey questions or anything, so.
Freebie Friday is here. Shout out to our boss, Jeff Rickard, bringing in some wonderful donuts here for us in studio. I did
not make eye contact with
you.
He
didn't even come close to looking at me.
He wanted nothing to see in your hairy chest. Nothing.
None of it.
No, nothing. Zero. He sat him down. He said, "What's up?" He turned around. He left.
I got up to shake his hand.
He didn't want anything.
That made him leave even quicker.
Well, he was where the belly button lint, which I believe you picked out minutes after he left, which was good. So
there's a lot more hair in that belly button than I do recall. As I look for some more lint, Scotty, this pop quiz is a joke. Andy Sweeney, give us a number 1 through 8.
Yeah, let's go caller number 4 today. Quite a few callers today. Caller number 4,
Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Hello. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Josh, how are you on this Friday?
I'm doing good. I'm off work and just getting some errands done.
Good for you.
Love it. Josh, what do you do for a living?
I work for the city.
Nice. Care to reveal, maybe what you do for the city? Or
he
just
may not want to.
Leave it at that.
Yeah, let's leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Well, if you have any affiliation with the Salt Trucks, thought they did a wonderful job last night. So thank you for that. Josh, do you care that Notre Dame won or no?
I'm for it. I'm definitely for it. I'm not a huge fan, but they're all in the team. You root for them when you can.
Sure. Okay.
It's better than rooting for Georgia. It ensures, by the way, with Marcus Freeman and Sark After Dark, and let's see James Franklin, and who's the other one I'm missing?
Ryan Day.
And Ryan Day, a new coach, is going to win the national title.
3 out of 4 Northern teams still left, if you want to kind of go off of that. So, Josh, love your energy. Congrats on the day off work. Thanks for listening. Thanks for giving us a call. Andy Sweeney, go right ahead.
All right, let's go, Josh. Let's go. Question number 1. Of the top 4 seeds in the college football playoff, how many advance to next week's semifinal round? None, 1, 2, or 3?
2.
Josh, you sure, brother?
1.
Josh, you sure, brother?
3.
Josh, are you sure, brother?
The other option.
Yeah, 0. Remember, Josh. Come on, man. 0. This is the whole talk about the college football playoff
right,
for the lower
Josh.
seeds. Not a good start,
I had
Josh.
a pothole joke. I'll let it be. Let's move on to number 2 here, Josh. You got to prove yourself now. Okay. Nick Sirianni announced Wednesday that Saquon Barkley will likely rest in the Eagles' season finale against the Giants. Barkley currently holds 2,005 rushing yards, 100 yards behind Eric Dickerson's NFL single-season record. Barkley is the 9th player to eclipse 2,000 rushing yards in a season. Who was the first? Was it Eric Dickerson, Jim Brown, Earl Campbell, or OJ?
Jim Brown.
Let me be very clear. He gets 0 clues the rest of the way. I mean, I can't do that to question 1 and in the bearskin chest of mine have the dignity or the integrity to give him another one.
You want to take another stab at it, Josh?
Oil change anyway. It's okay.
OJ.
There you go.
I mean, did Mark Dykton think he was on top of the world there? Did you catch what he said?
No, what did he say?
I didn't say anything. What are you talking about? Take another stab at it.
You're sick, Mark.
Boy.
Just another way.
We should have just let it go, explaining
By
the
way,
joke.
have you seen some of these, when Notre Dame plays in these games, you oftentimes get the shirts, right? Remember, Catholics versus cigarettes.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen some of these for Penn State?
Oh no, boy!
I'm not
You
gonna.
can't say any of these on the air,
can't say
you?
it, but can you guess what they are?
I can guess what they are. I will do a Twitter search after we get off the air. I can imagine what they are. Question number 3: Riley Leonard rushed for 80 yards and he threw for a touchdown pass as Notre Dame advanced to the college football semifinals with last night's win over Georgia. Where did Leonard play before transferring to Notre Dame this season? Wake Forest, North Carolina, Duke, or NC State?
Oh, I have no clue on this one, so I'll just guess NC State.
Josh, number 4 here. There was one other bowl game on Thursday. It was the Gator Bowl. You have any idea who won it? Was it Duke, Ole Miss, LSU, or Baylor?
LSU.
I tell you what, they were doing this last night. Duke had everyone transfer. all their players were gone.
Notre Dame has benefited from a couple of them.
Yeah, they had nobody there to play in the bowl game. All right, last one, Josh. On this day in 1971, the first AFC Championship game took place. Who won the inaugural AFC Championship game? Was it the Baltimore Colts, the Oakland Raiders, the Kansas City Chiefs, or the Miami Dolphins?
Let's go with Oakland Raiders.
You know, I will.
Poor Josh. Thanks, Josh.
I have a big kind of radio mantra of like anything I say, I want to be honest about. I want to make sure there's substance behind it. You know, I don't want to really be hot takey. Josh seems like a super nice guy.
A great guy, great listener.
Glad that he's off work.
Works for
really
the city.
Appreciate him listening. He gets a free oil change in this Freebie Friday. That was one of the more horrific efforts we've ever had in the pop quiz.
It's no offense to Josh, but his answers made it seem like he doesn't watch sports. The one that killed me was Riley Leonard last year at Duke. I don't know why that one bothered me more than others.
Number 1 really bothered me.
Did it?
I mean, I went to all 4 of them. We had to go to the 4th one for him to get it right. Jeremy, hopefully he is an elected leader for our city. He sucked. Well, yeah, I really set up the but a lot there with Josh. Mark, tell him thank you on that end.
The Gator Bowl last night was a dog of a game. Poor Duke was out there against Ole Miss. Ole Miss just missed out on the college football playoff because they lost to Kentucky 2 months ago. And Duke the only players that were good on Duke's roster all have already taken big NIL deals elsewhere. I mean, just nobody on their team.
Ole Miss, Baltimore Colts for 5. Riley Leonard came from Duke. Notre Dame had a lot of transfers impact last night. O.J. Simpson for number 2. Mark was pretty, I don't know if that was a good one or not on that. None of the teams that got the buys advanced there. Again, I think that storyline's getting a little blown up too much. I just, like, Boise really didn't deserve a bye. Arizona State really didn't deserve a bye. So, you know, and Notre Dame did get a little bit of a break. I didn't think Stockton was horrific, but they got a little break, you know, certainly facing the backup quarterback. And Ohio State shouldn't have been an 8 seed. Or, I mean, I should say this. Ohio State was your unusual 8 seed. And you sometimes get this in the NCAA basketball tournament where the team with gobs and gobs of talent, they've got kind of the, the freaky resume. They all of a sudden end up as a lower seeded team or a higher seeded team, however you look at it, and they get on a run.
I'm to the point where I am interested this offseason, and Greg Sankey has mentioned it, and he mentioned it, KB, again last night, how much the SEC pressures and other conferences, but let's start with Greg Sankey, how much they pressure everybody else in the room to change up. Like, can Greg Sankey get the people at Oregon to say, hey, look, you got screwed because of this, that, and the other? Like, how much do they change the format after just 1 year? And who besides the SEC wants to see the format changed? Does that make sense? Because it's going to be tinkered with, but there's a difference in tinkering with it or fundamentally changing the way you rank teams. And I don't know what they're going to do after just one season. I don't.
Again, my gripes, you can't have the buys for all the automatic conferences. I think that will help even out the bracket. You know, you should not have an 8th-ranked Ohio State team as a favorite in the quarterfinal. I just I just thought how big of a favorite even Texas and Penn State was a bit unfair to them. So I would like to see that. I would just like to see a little bit more of an evened out bracket, and then I'd also like to see home games for the quarterfinals, which is a much bigger ask. Like you said, Andy. I mean, the Bulls. Did you watch this? Did you guys watch the post game celebration there? Probably not, because you don't care. But of Notre Dame on stage.
No.
I mean, watching the Sugar Bowl president grab the mic a million times from Molly McGrath, it's like, dear Lord, these bowl people, they make me want to puke.
Yeah, but they're the reason that all this is the way that it is. Everyone's like, yeah, get rid of the bowls or move them to where they're at the stadiums on campus stadiums. Like, no, they're never going. The bowl execs matter more than anybody in college football.
Like Notre Dame beats IU, and the first thing Marcus Freeman has to say is, thank you to President Joe Smith from the Nokia Sugar or whatever the hell it's called, the Sugar Bowl. We can't wait to play in your game. Can we not celebrate?
That's all state now.
The win and then move on to all the corporate BS?
No, that matters more than anything. And I thought, I thought during the broadcast they kept saying, I thought they kept saying more about who the Sugar Bowl was presented by, and I wonder if they did that because the game no longer was at 8 o'clock at night. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah, you certainly lose.
I'm sure they lost a huge amount of viewers. I know that they had almost 12,000 empty seats there. It was obviously a sellout game. People are paying. But Notre Dame fans and Georgia fans, with what happened down there on Bourbon Street, they had to leave. Not everyone could stick around for over 24 hours. I don't know.
I think that's a really good point. A sincere safe travels to everybody out there. It sounds like Sunday into Monday could be a bit ugly from a snowfall standpoint. I know a lot of people are getting either back to work, back to school, so hopefully that thing is not too much of a hindrance for us here, and obviously anybody heading out of the Colts game on Sunday as well. Our coverage will begin at 9 a.m., and sincere thank you to both of you two for having to look at me for the last 3 hours.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And Scotty today. Scotty walked in, kind of gave you a look, went to his corner, got ready for the pop quiz.
I stand by having the shirt off.
No, it's fine.
Drake Straw absolutely raked me over the coals.
Boy, he did. He was
Matt
tough
Taylor
on
wasn't
you.
much better either.
No.
And I say this with all due respect. I don't know if I've ever said this. Rake can kiss my ass. My shirt was off for good reason.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Give me a car with him.
Rake was very much looking down on you is the best way that I would
Shame
say
on
it.
Rake.
So, everyone have a good weekend. Colts and Jags coming up on Sunday. We're back at it Monday, 7